You ready to do this?
Yeah. But did you know 2 basketballs will fit side by side in a standard size rim?
No.
Yeah, it's a true story, dude.
Or what
Neil deGrasse Tyson told me that.
lying sack of
didn't
shit
tell
told
me.
you this? Neil deGrasse Tyson. Huh?
Yeah.
I guess that guy's not always right.
Wow.
If you can prove it, if you can go get me a hoop right now.
How
and 2
much more proof do you
basketballs.
need?
The fact that people miss, because if there was a hoop is that big,
Right.
I would never miss. I'd be like Larry Bird.
Well, it bounces around.
It
bounces
shouldn't.
around.
It shouldn't if 2 basketballs can fit in there.
But but you know, it could hit the side of the rim and bounce off. Basketballs, you know, they're bouncy.
There's people that straight up airball.
There's a lot.
If the hoop was as big as you're saying.
It is, man. It is. You just don't want to accept it because you miss sometimes.
You call me shitty at basketball? Let's go to the court right now. Hello and welcome back to the True Crime Guys podcast. I'm Lauren.
And I'm Michael.
What's up, people?
We're back. We're back at work.
We're back in the studio again.
Actually, I didn't take any weeks off.
Huh?
I didn't take any weeks off.
What were you doing?
I
Podcasting?
went, yeah.
Starting some other shit, bro?
No.
Let me. Who's
Look,
your new partner?
Well, the first week.
Who was your new
off,
partner? Tell me.
There's no one. I don't
Fuck
have a new
them up.
partner. Okay. I'm going solo.
I got an axe
No,
with
I'm
their name on it, bro.
Right? No, I went to the meetup, remember? So that's technically
That's
technically
right.
podcast shit.
You met Esther in
I did.
flesh and blood.
I did. She's just as amazing in person as she is in audio. So there you go.
Right on.
She sounds exactly the same. So her face and her voice match. So guys don't have to worry about like being an imposter or whatever. That's definitely her.
The fuck?
It's definitely her on the
I
show.
didn't worry about that, Michael.
You
I don't
didn't
know
worry
why
about
someone
that?
would worry about that.
Okay. Well,
You think
I
she's
have
kind of Men in
stand-ins.
Black
I have
character or
stand-ins
something?
for me all the time. That wasn't even me in San Jose.
That's true.
All right. So you ready to get started with this? You picked another scary one.
We picked another Halloween season type spooky case.
I like what you're
It's
doing with this.
a very rare unsolved crime case for us. Like, we don't do that very often.
Right.
I think this will be our third.
This one's kind
I
of,
think will be our third.
depending on how you look at it, yeah, it's kind of cut
It's
and dry.
kind of West Memphis 3-ish, where there's like someone that you could point to and be like, I think
Yeah,
maybe this person did it. Makes sense, but there's no way to know.
exactly.
It's over.
Exactly.
It's over, Johnny.
But it is funny that it stopped when he died, but, it's whatever.
Yeah, and then everything seemed to kind of sync up when he was in and out of jail.
Right. Yeah. Details.
Either way,
details,
it seems like he got what was
Yeah,
coming to
he
him,
got it.
whether he was the Axeman or not. We'll get into that. But yeah, it's Halloween season. Another fun one, the Axeman of New Orleans.
New Orleans, for the locals.
New Orleans.
New Orleans.
New Orleans.
Yeah, too much
New Orleans.
New Orleans.
New Orleans.
New Orleans.
New Orleans.
There you go. You're getting there.
New
New
Orleans.
Orleans.
I went and saw the new Halloween last night.
Did you?
Halloween 2018.
Mm-hmm.
Fantastic.
How was it?
I loved it.
I'm sure it's so much better
I
than the old ones just for the music and graphics.
I forced 3 people to come watch it with me that do not like scary movies.
Oh,
So
really?
I was the only one that like enjoys that sort of thing. So I got to watch them squirm the whole time. It was great.
That's great.
My wife was almost broke my hand squeezing it so hard.
I feel like the older I get, the more I enjoy scary movies now.
Yeah,
I guess because
dude. I mean,
when you study real life criminals all the time, it's like, it's just like, I watched It the other day.
the new one,
I was amazed by it.
The new one?
I wasn't even afraid. I was like, this is so fucking amazing.
the new one,
Yeah.
it was great, right? I saw that in
Yes.
theaters. Fantastic.
Great.
Yeah. I think the thing that people say they hate about it is like that's what I love about it.
About what? About it?
Scary movies.
Oh, yeah, yeah.
Like, they're like, why would you want to be scared? I'm like, it's cool, because then when it's over, it's over. But like, your heart gets racing, you're like, oh shit, shit.
Yeah, exactly.
And then
You
it
should
ends, and
buy
you're like,
in.
oh, I feel better.
You got to buy in. Yeah.
Yeah, man.
Yeah, you got to go along with the experience. Like, aren't you scared? Of course, I'm a little bit scared of shit.
Yeah, and the Halloween series has always been one of my favorites. I even like the bad ones. I like 4 and 5. Like, I like all the fucking. I like the
Nice.
corny ones. I like Resurrection, maybe not, but like H2O, I love.
Right, right.
I like all of them.
What are we
I just
doing?
like his character.
Are we doing a movie podcast?
Yeah, we are.
All right.
Welcome to the True Crime Guys movie podcast.
Yeah, let's get back to the case, man. New
Well,
Orleans.
Well, not only that, but I do want to bring up. We did another free episode of Halloween, kind of spooky edition, the Grave Robber,
Right.
the Mosquito of Nuremberg.
Yep.
And we kind of talked a lot about grave robbing. We talked about like what it would be like to work security at like a cemetery.
Mm-hmm.
And people actually reached out and told us, some stories and whatnot. And one was really interesting that I thought we could read real quick.
Oh, dope. I don't
It's
even know it
from
yet.
Morgan on Instagram, hit us up and said, "Hey, awesome episode. I do have a couple stories for you. My dad, before he became an engineer in 1970, he did some pretty fucking creepy jobs. His first job in high school was a janitor at a mental hospital, which was actually more like a prison. In 1961, he became a guard and was on duty at night for the grounds. My mom and him got married super young. They lived near the hospital prison for free. So patients often died because either the treatment they received killed them or natural causes, but he said that at least 10 a month died for a while. Whew. They also had a huge part of land that was a graveyard, so Dad would make his rounds and keep in mind in the 60s, security wasn't exactly tight. Patients would escape a lot, and one night he caught a patient digging with their hands to get to someone who had died because they wanted to be with them.
Oh, my God.
Digging in the graveyard, trying to get to someone they knew that had died. He said she had dug so hard that she was about halfway down to the coffin. Another time, an employee was actually digging up graves to get valuables from these people, which there were none. And he was just leaving them out, so he would have to rebury them. That the last thing that happened before my mom made him quit was a man got out and would dig himself a grave each night, and he was found one time almost buried alive. He'd almost buried himself alive.
He was trying to bury himself alive.
Yeah.
Why?
He was sick, obviously. It was like a, cemetery / mental institution or,
Right. I just don't see why that would be your ideal
well,
way.
he's not in his right mind.
Maybe he just wanted to play a prank on somebody.
Right.
He only dug it like 3 feet
Maybe
deep so
it
he could
was
stick his arms up.
Maybe it's some kind of weird fetish
Grab
where he
people's
wanted to
ankles and
be
shit.
buried alive. We talked about people that wanted their genitalia eaten or cut off, and
Yeah.
people are into some weird stuff, man.
Yeah, that's an
Just
understatement.
because we're normal, somewhat
Normal. Yeah.
But yeah, they're very interesting stuff. If you guys, have some more creepy Halloween stories for us, you might have time before the season's over with
Right.
another episode to bring up one of your stories. But thank you, Morgan, for that. That was a fun little read.
That was
creepy.
delightful.
Creepy. Yeah.
That is interesting, though. You
Yeah.
don't think about those types of jobs.
No.
Like the stories that they would have. That's interesting. And that location, too.
Right.
Okay, interesting.
All right.
Well, let's get into it.
Nolans. What was it? Nolans?
Nolans.
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 Nolan. You got to get like a deep Nolans. Picture some jazz
Some
playing in the background.
Nolans?
Nolans.
Yep.
Eating some crawfish or something.
Yeah.
I feel like I would not be fond of the food down there. I'm a picky little kid when it comes to food.
You don't like Cajun food?
I tried clam last night for the first time.
Really?
Not one thing I enjoyed about it. Did not
No?
like the texture, the flavor, anything.
You like Popeyes?
I haven't had Popeyes.
Yes, you have. Remember I brought some over.
Oh, that's right. Yeah, their chicken's good.
Yeah, it is. That's not genuine. That's not authentic. People in New Orleans are probably like, "What? I know. Chill out. I'm just giving them an idea."
Love that chicken at Popeyes.
Yeah, the gumbo.
All right, let's go down south to Nolans.
Let's do it.
Nolans.
New Orleans.
Now, to be exact, at 12:15 earthly time, on next Tuesday night, I'm going to pass over New Orleans. In my infinite mercy, I'm going to make a little proposition to you people. Here it is. I am very fond of jazz music, and I swear by all the devils in the nether regions that every person shall be spared in whose home a jazz band is in full swing at the time I have just mentioned. If everyone has a jazz band going, well, then so much be the better for you people. One thing is certain, and that is that some of you people who do not jazz it out on that specific Tuesday night, if there be any, will get the old axe. Jazz it out, jazz it out.
Jazz it out. Jazz it out. Jazz it out. Jazz it out. Axeman's coming, better jazz it out. Jazz it out. No rhythm, no swing, he'll count you out. Jazz it out. But if you got the music as free as a soul, jazz it out. You can open up the windows, leave your axe by the door. So jazz it out.
All right, guys, our case this week is the Axeman of New Orleans. Nolans.
New Orleans.
The Axeman of New Orleans was an American serial killer active in New Orleans, Louisiana, and surrounding communities, including Gretna, from May 1918 to October 1919. Supposedly, now the time frame is debated because because there's some early hatchet killings that they're not sure whether they were connected or not. A lot of these killings they're
There's
just
a
kind of
cleaver killing that
the
could have
cleaver
been
the
connected.
cleaver killings, and then the actual
Right.
Axe killings came at separate times, but there was a lot of similarities, so they connected them.
Right.
But
I think there's a pretty good chance
almost all of
that
these
this is the same person.
were debatable whether they were actually part of the same killer or not. But there's some hallmarks there as far as like the panel of the door. That one's big for me. Like the door panel, he would always.
I feel like that just makes sense though. I feel like that's just the easiest way to get in. I mean, if those door
Really,
panels,
I think it's very
were
original. We've
removable-
never heard of someone getting in like that. Like we've done a lot of,
but
cases where someone would break into someone's home in the middle of the night. Never doing that.
Yeah, but I think a lot of the ways that people get in to homes depend on the neighborhood
period.
and the architecture of that area.
Yeah.
And those doors may have been extremely popular in that area, and that would have just been like a obvious thing for him to do.
That being said, though,
But he didn't always do that because sometimes he would go through the window. So he just went to the easiest
I was
way.
going to say this is New Orleans.
Yeah.
In the early 1900s, no one has air conditioning, and it's fucking hot and swampy. So
Oh, yeah.
you got to think that most people have their windows cracked to get some air. That's why
Right.
they have these mosquito nets around their bed.
Yep.
So why is this dude chiseling out a fucking panel out of a door? It just seems like just pick a house with an open window. They're going to be all over the place.
Maybe he's got to make a point, or maybe the house with
Maybe
the open
that's his
windows,
hallmark, Michael.
or maybe the house with the open window was playing jazz.
Maybe he's the door panel guy killer. The door panel guy.
The door-
killer.
Yeah, that rolls right off the tongue. Sure, it'll be on every
Take the guy
headline
out. If you take the guy out, the
in
door
the
panel
New
killer.
Orleans Herald.
Everyone's afraid out of their mind. The door panel guy killer's
door
coming,
panel.
guys.
Why don't you just fucking brace your door panels and throw your axes away?
Yeah,
Get rid of them.
That's never gonna happen, bro. They always had their axe.
Well, then sleep with it in your hand.
There was an axe for each room. Every kid had an axe. There's axes just
Axe,
fucking everywhere.
Kitchen axe, bedroom axe,
Fucking toothbrush axe.
yeah, toilet plunging axe, whatever.
That'd be kind of cool.
Yeah, but they probably just had outhouses, so
Multi-purpose.
they probably just
you
tore
imagine?
down the toilet and just dug another hole somewhere else.
That'd be pretty embarrassing. You got killed with the axe.
The
that
toilet
had the toilet
axe?
brush scrub on the other side of it.
Oh, that would suck. Dude, not only did you just get cut up, bro, you got severely infected.
Right.
Like, that is not good.
Yeah, because a lot of
That's
people
not
lived.
healthy.
A lot
Yeah.
of people lived. Now, if they'd gotten the toilet dookie brush side, they might have later succumbed to the
Yeah.
bacteria.
Right, the infection.
Yeah.
That's true.
All right. And no laughing matter, though. This guy did some of the most heinous crimes that we've ever studied. I mean, being struck by an axe over and over again while you're sleeping is not a great thing.
No, that's definitely.
I mean, it's an understatement of the year right there. It's not a great thing.
It's not optimal. It's
That's not how I prefer to wake up.
It's not
That's
the
just
way
me.
I'd like to go. Yeah, it's just such a violent crime, and for that time, but it just made sense. I don't
It
think
made sense
everybody had
because
guns, and
It was an opportunist, like you're finding he would always just kind of use their axe that he found at their property to do that, and then he would leave it there.
yeah, I hate to talk about
van.
this serial killer like he's some kind of creative inventor. Well, it just makes sense. He used the tools at his disposal. And
Right.
I don't mean to say it like that.
You
but-
got to think there'd be a lot more axe crimes or hatchet crimes currently if if everyone had axes all over their house. It was so common back then, obviously, because they had to chop wood constantly.
Right.
For their wood burning stoves and
Exactly.
whatnot. And so everybody, I mean, there was not a person really that didn't have an axe like on their property, and it was usually like out back on in their shed or in their backyard or whatever, wherever they chop wood,
Right.
or in their house. And yeah, he would stumble upon that and use it. But now, if everyone had an axe just laying around their property, there'd probably be a lot more domestic violence using an axe or home break-ins using an axe.
I don't know.
You don't think so?
I grew up with an axe always like near our house.
You didn't hit
We
anybody
lived in
with
the
it?
woods. No. Damn. Not that I can remember.
All right, well, I guess you just dispatched to my theory.
Okay. Maybe most people are just like civil human beings. That's why having an axe laying out was a normal thing.
Right.
You know what I mean? I mean, if everybody was just swinging axes at each other, yeah, leaving your axe out is probably not a great idea.
No, what my point is, like, the book that we got, let's talk about that for a second.
Okay.
So the book we used to study for this case is a great book. There's an Audible form. It's called Axeman, The Axeman of New Orleans.
No.
And it is written by Miriam C. Davis, read by Joe Barrett, if you get the Audible form. The Axeman of New Orleans, the true story.
Nice.
Very good. It's well-researched, very in-depth, almost like mind-numbing at times because the detail, like so much detail into every character in it, like the
Right.
detectives, like everybody.
I mean,
involved.
she paints a good picture of the time.
Definitely.
Too. Yeah.
A lot of history about New Orleans.
Yeah. Absolutely.
And
I listened to a podcast with her on it. It was an interview.
Oh, with the writer,
Yeah.
Miriam C. Davis.
It's on True Murder.
Oh, right
True
on.
Murder, the most shocking. And Miriam Davis does an interview on there, which is really interesting. If you listen to the book, she has a lot of extra insight as to like, what evidence she had and her theories as to why she ties certain things together. And it's pretty interesting, though.
Dude, these kind of books just make us feel, or make me feel like, man, what are we doing? Like with this podcast, we do so little work. like writers of
Right.
like a book like this.
Right.
The amount of time and effort put in to do the research, like it's got to just take years.
Right.
And every day you're like hitting the streets, talking to people, like looking into old police records, looking into it's just like unreal the depth they go to.
That's what you have to do if people don't like listening to
And then
the
we
voice.
just come along and listen to the audiobook, and then we just spout off about the book for an hour, and boom,
Right.
Bob's your uncle.
Sprinkle a little charm in there, and then people listen to it for some reason.
Yeah.
It's crazy.
Yeah.
I don't know. Just think if people didn't like to listen to us, we'd have to like do a lot of research and be writers.
That's not going to happen.
No. Writing.
But where I was getting at with the book, why I referenced the book, is that the book talks a lot about how axe crime was a lot more common back then because of the sheer fact that it was available in there, and I don't think guns were as common.
Now,
And
when you
so
say axe crime,
it was free. It was fairly, and not common, but like much more common. But it happened from time to time where a drunk husband would, hit his wife with it, or there'd be a assault between neighbors where whatever, like somebody would get into it and they'd see the axe laying there in the yard, go grab it.
you probably don't want to complain about your neighbor's dog shitting on your lawn when he's chopping wood. You know what I'm saying? Like, just leave him alone
He
for a
just
minute.
turns and gives
Let
you
him
that
cool
look.
off. Yeah, he's got his fucking sleeves rolled up,
Just
fucking
grips that
forearms
axe a little
bulging.
tighter.
Oh, come on over here, then, boy. They gotta do that cage. I'm going down there swamp here, boy. Gonna give me a couple gators and I'm gonna catch them out and give me some gumbo.
All right, guy. Just
my
don't let your dog shit in
Cajun
my yard
accent.
anymore.
All right. That'd be you talking to your neighbor in New Orleans.
Like, I
Oh
don't
my
know if I
gosh.
fit in here too well.
No, you feeling just fine, boy. You doing all right, boy. We'll take you out to the swamp man, and show you how to wrestle gator.
Now, you're not saying that everyone in New Orleans sounds like that.
No. That's obviously the exaggerated,
The swamp talk
the
version.
Cajun accent.
Yeah.
But people make fun of people in backwoods Carolinas too. So whatever.
Yeah, Michael.
Yeah. So it's fair. I can pick on them, right? I can claim.
I'm from the South, guys.
Yeah.
All right, let's get back into the police reports during the height of the public panic about the killings mentioned similar murders as early as 1911. Those would be the Hatchet murders. But recent researchers have called these reports into question. The perpetrator was never identified and the murders remain unsolved. As we said, one of the few unsolved cases we've taken on. But there's been enough time and enough research done that, we can tell you guys some theories.
And
talk
possibly
about some
justice
suspects.
was served, even though it wasn't solved.
Possibly some street justice.
Yeah.
My favorite kind.
That's right. Served cold.
As the popular moniker applies, the victims are usually attacked with an axe, which often belong to the victims themselves. In most cases, a panel on the back door of the home was removed by a chisel, which were both left on the floor near the door, followed by an attack on one or more of the residents with either an axe or a straight razor,
Or both.
which was the very first one that
Right.
we think is attributed to the axe murder.
Right.
The crimes were not motivated by robbery, and the perpetrator almost never removed items from the victims' homes. So it was, early on they thought robbery, but, we'll get into that because it was
Right.
kind of a lot like the Golden State Killer in that, like, small amounts of stuff would be taken, invaluable stuff, and then much more valuable stuff would be left sitting there. It's like, this is
Exactly.
not a robbery. Like,
Right.
Robert,
Well, it's not the main motive. Yeah.
Right. The majority of the Axeman's victims were Italian immigrants or Italian Americans, leading many to believe that the crimes were ethnically motivated. Many media outlets sensationalized this aspect of the crimes, even suggesting mafia involvement, despite lack of evidence. Some crime analysts have suggested that the killings were related to sex and that the murderer was perhaps a sadist, specifically seeking female victims.
How could they say that? I mean, wasn't it almost always a couple that was attacked, though? Most of the cases?
They hypothesized that the Axeman killed male victims only when they were obstructed his attempts to murder the women. Supported cases in which the women of the household was murdered, but not the men. So it seems.
But there was no evidence of sexual assault on these people.
No. But a lot of theories say that he was potentially motivated by the sight of the blood, excited by it, some kind of a sexual sadist. Maybe, obviously he didn't sexually assault any of the victims, but
Right.
may have gotten some gratification out of that. because it was a very personal way to kill someone.
Well, my only problem with that, didn't he
lot of
kill a husband and leave the wife?
Yeah.
Like, at least once, I know for a fact. So what happened there?
Well, it doesn't even necessarily
And then he
have to
didn't
be.
assault
Doesn't
her.
even necessarily have to be like a woman that he bludgeons to get that satisfaction. It may or may not be sexual.
Yeah,
sexually
I don't think
motivated.
it is. I think it's just to promote jazz.
Oh,
Yeah,
that's unquestionable.
yeah, jazz. Like
That is undeniable that he loved.
it's
jazz.
not widely accepted, you know. So
I feel like a
so
jazz
in order
lover
to
would be
promote
much
jazz,
more.
in order to promote jazz, you really got to be profound. You got to be out there with your promotion. Most people.
You also have to be sophisticated, though.
Yeah.
I just can't picture a jazz lover bashing
No?
people with axes. I feel like they're more eloquent. Like their soul is, they're a
dude.
kind soul. Like they're into the more finer things in life. They drink wine. They don't bash people in the head with fucking axes.
Have you ever seen a jazz drummer? They're all over the place.
I can't say that I've seen a jazz drummer. Michael, you got me there.
They're hitting all kinds of shit, man. Just
So you're saying they're erratic, the type of
bludgeoning
person-
cymbals left and right.
bludgeoning cymbals,
Yeah,
picturing them as skulls
yeah, maybe.
in the night.
Oh, maybe he was the drummer.
Maybe he was. We're on to
what I'm
something.
getting
See,
to?
cracking cases.
Cracking, cracking case.
100-year-old
cases.
cases. Michael has
skulls.
solved it. He's a jazz drummer.
You're welcome. Good night.
And we're out. So yeah, in order to really cover this case, we had to look into. Well, the book did a good job of doing this for us, but you really have to know a little bit about New Orleans during
Right,
this time,
right.
during the late 1800s, early 1900s. It was such a melting pot, probably one of the biggest melting pots this country's ever seen. Like during this time period.
Oh, absolutely.
And very little segregation. There was all these different cultures that were all kind of mixed together. It was a very interesting place.
Right, like in the Northeast towns, you think there's a lot of diversity there, but they all had like their neighborhoods. They already had like places where they were going.
Yeah.
But yeah, in New Orleans, they didn't. They were just they were all coming here, and they all were forced to live together because they all had to live in these lower income parts of town because that's all they could afford.
Well, it was
and open these grocers and stuff.
Well, it was like a hot spot for Western Europe.
Yeah.
It was owned by the French up until not even that long before this. Like what was it, like the early 1800s or something, that was sold
Right.
in the Louisiana Purchase. And so it was a stopping point in like a melting pot for Europe, and then
Right.
all these people flooded over, all these different cultures. What was it, like North Africa, and then like France. There was a huge French population,
Right.
and then Italians and
Italians,
Sicilians
yep.
started flooding in. It was just, it was crazy time to be in this area.
Right.
Very interesting. So leading up to this, New Orleans had known Italians from its earliest days, and an Italian business community established itself in the city well before the Civil War. There was a need for cheap workforce in the late 19th century that led to the great influx of Sicilians into the city and state. The sugar plantations loved Sicilian laborers as they found them a hardworking, money-saving race and content with few of the comforts in life. But the Sicilians were known to work very hard, save every penny.
Yeah.
And the one thing that the sugar
Sicilians-
plantation owners did not like is that they could only hold on to these workers for so long before they would go off and start their own business.
Right. Well, Sicilians, they didn't trust the government in any way, so they wanted to do everything for themselves, and they would settle.
Why should they trust them? They were just using them as
Yeah.
cheap laborers.
Right, exactly. But they would handle everything themselves. Like if anybody had some sort of dispute, and that's why a lot of cops, like early on, weren't taking this very serious because they thought it was mostly Sicilian, Italian people that were being killed. So they
figured it
thought they
was-
were just like vendettas within families, and that seemed more plausible than a serial killer. Because
Right.
it's like, what the fuck is a serial killer?
Rival grocers getting into it,
Yeah,
hacking each other,
They were
over,
just killing each other with axes,
killing competition.
Right. It's like the first.
That was that was literally one of the grocers'
Oh my
mottos. That didn't help them very much, killing the competition.
And maybe the cutting the door thing.
And
or whatever.
their logo was an axe. That didn't help either.
Didn't help. They seemed really guilty. And there's the cut in the panel was just something. That's what we do in Sicily. We get in people's houses to a door panel.
That's how we visit for dinner. We cut out the door
We
panel.
got the door panel. We unlock it. We are family.
Hey, I'm here. Cut out the panel.
Where is your axe?
By the early 1880s and 1890s, Sicilians flooded into the port of New Orleans, and dominated Italian immigration in Louisiana. Did you realize what you did? What you've done? What you did?
What I've did?
By the beginning of this, saying that I have to say it. No, now every time I
you
say
don't
it, and it's
have
gonna be a
to.
lot of times, I'm gonna have to slow down the show, New Orleans, and then go
we can
back into it.
I mean, people that aren't from there, they say New Orleans all the time.
Yeah.
I guess.
I've always said the
can say it.
Orleans because we have a casino in Vegas
Yeah,
called the
yeah,
Orleans, and everyone
exactly.
just calls it the Orleans. They don't go the Orleans.
Right, because it doesn't sound right. It doesn't sound right. But if you got new in front of it, New Orleans.
By 1900, the city had the largest Italian community in the South. About 20,000, counting the children of immigrants, lived in New Orleans. An immigrant who carefully hoarded his wages could strike out on his own within a few years. By 1900, a small Italian-owned businesses had sprung up all over Louisiana. So yeah, like we said, they would work at these plantations, save every penny, live in squalor for a while, and save up enough money to open, whatever,
Right.
a little store, and take on their own way of living. But the commercial success of Sicilian immigrants couldn't protect them from the racial prejudice of the American South. Italians never entirely replaced black labor in Louisiana, but worked alongside African Americans in the fields. While Italians, not understanding the racial hierarchies of the South, found nothing shameful about this, for native whites, their willingness to do so made them no better than the African Americans working. There's this big
Right.
race separation going on, and racism is rampant in the South during this time between whites and everyone else.
Right.
The Sicilians were often considered not white at all, nothing but black Dagos. The notion that Dagos were no better than Negroes helps account for the growing prejudice against the Italian immigrants. They faced suspicion and the occasional lynch mob. So you mentioned vendettas.
Yeah.
By the early 20th century, many Sicilians congregated in the lower French quarter near the river known as the Little Palermo. So they had their own little Italian quarter at this point, Sicilian section.
Right.
One of the most common upward trajectories for an ambitious Sicilian in New Orleans and elsewhere was from plantation worker to truck farmer to peddler to grocer.
So that was the natural
Progression.
of things. Okay.
Yeah.
Anyway, I wonder how long this took. I wonder how many years it took to get
I think
to work your way
3-4 years is what I think the book
okay.
mentioned of just steady saving, because they obviously didn't make a whole lot in the plantations.
But a lot of these people, once they became grocers, they lived above them, right? They lived in the same building, and then
Yeah.
so that made it easier. Or maybe they
That
bought
was
a house
very-
with downstairs and converted or whatever.
Yeah, it's very common back then for you to live at your business. You
Yeah.
live upstairs or whatever. And that's
Yeah.
where almost all of these crimes took place. It was a very specific victim that this Axeman was looking for.
And a
Italian
lot of them-
grocers owners that lived in their home.
Right.
It was also their business.
That's right. Yeah.
Some Italians did very well indeed in New Orleans, but despite such success, unpleasant stereotypes clung to Italian immigrants, some of which actually did have a basis in reality, due to the fact that they brought with them to America a clan-like mentality at times and distrust of the authorities that led them to settle their disputes the old-fashioned way, the
Right.
vendetta, which you had mentioned.
Right. And it worked for a while.
Yeah, this system of justice survived in Sicily into the 20th century. Immigrants brought it with them to New Orleans, and vendettas, both personally and professionally, weren't particularly uncommon. So they would just settle shit themselves. They wouldn't go to the
Right.
police. So many shootings and knife fights occurred along the Decatur Street that it was nicknamed Vendetta Alley.
Ooh, must have been dark.
It's kind of
Imagine
badass.
the
Picture
like
the
the
dude with
voodoo
the white
man.
mask.
Yeah, the voodoo man hangs out there with a
Yeah.
top hat.
Right.
Hey, notice you're a little sad today.
The fear of immigrant crime culminated in 1890 to 1891 with the murder of New Orleans Chief of Police David Hennessy. The popular official was met with a volley of gunfire as he arrived home on the night of October 15th, 1890. Mortally wounded, Hennessy insisted the Dagos got me. He'd previously been involved in a violent dispute between two Italian factions.
Oh, okay.
So
They
that,
took
that's,
care of him.
that's why, I mean, when you look into this case, you know, there's a lot of speculation that there was organized crime, Sicilian organized crime involved
And
in
there,
some
I
of
think
these
there
killings.
was on a small level.
Yeah, and there's not like completely out of thin air that they came up with these, because there
Right.
was some organized crime going on, and this is really where like mafia became popularized around in the South, is like the media reports of these stuff started coming about the Axeman, and then it also
Right.
started coming out with their own theories about organized crime and Sicily.
But again,
with
I feel like
Sicilians, and then that's when like the rest of the city found out about, you know, like mafia. They didn't even know.
right. But I feel like the mafia thing was kind of a cop out as far as these crimes are concerned. I feel
Exactly.
like that's another one of the things that's just a little more believable
Right.
than having just some person who's insane going around hacking people.
Yeah, hacking people for no real
Right.
reason when
They
he's
just-
not even like taking all
Nobody
their
can
money.
fathom that. They're like, what?
Right.
What is this evil?
Well, serial killer was so far away from even being a term.
Yeah.
Yeah, so people don't know what was
People
going
didn't have time to be serial killers. They were working and shit, trying to
Right. Try
own
not
their
to
own
die.
grocery stores. We're too comfortable now. That's why we got serial killers.
on. Right. People in New Orleans found it easy to believe that Hennessy's murder was connected to the feud and the organized Italian criminal gangsters the press had referred to as the Mafia were responsible, and that's when that term became popularized in the media.
Right.
The Mafia. Criminal Italian gangs were certainly alive in New Orleans, although the Mafia was not a secret criminal organization, but a form of social organization that developed in Sicily and the south of Italy under very specific circumstances. It was, quote unquote, quote, a form of behavior and a kind of power, not a formal organization. So it hadn't.
So more of an attitude.
Exactly, and it hadn't really. It hadn't evolved into what we'll later see in mob episodes.
And I could
stuff
see
where
that.
they had like this hierarchy and like mob bosses and all that stuff. It was more of just like a mindset.
Exactly.
For
It's just a way of life. It's
picked on people that came to our country and were immediately, kind of thrown to the lower class of society, and they had to fight for what they got.
a moral code, if you will. That everybody it was just understood.
Well, no one was going to help them. They had to find a way to help each other.
Right.
Yeah,
that's true.
On the other hand, a type of petty extortion known as the Black Hand, a practice rather than an organization, did exist in which the victim was threatened with violence if the money demanded wasn't paid. So they basically, people like successful shop owners or whatnot would get this letter, and it would say basically, you need to pay me this money or else. And then it would have like a black hand picture. Like someone would like put ink on their hand and put it on the thing.
Interesting.
Pretty creepy.
Yeah, that is creepy. So they were trying to sell protection.
Fairly common practice back then. Such crime was fairly common in the southern Italian communities all over the U.S. by the late 19th and early 20th centuries, including New Orleans, and only disappeared when the descendants of immigrants became sufficiently Americanized to complain to the police about this themselves.
I like how that's phrased. Only disappeared when the descendants of immigrants became sufficiently Americanized. Right. Once they became...
Very eloquently written by our crime writer, Sarah S.
Right.
I love it.
Very nice. Yeah. Once they started to bend over and just fucking take it.
Right. Well, once they started themselves, as Italians that were being harassed by other Italians, going to the police rather than keeping that kind of moral code to like, I'm just going to deal with this.
Yeah, exactly.
Citizens of New Orleans tended to combine the vendetta, the mafia, and the black hand by the early 20th centuries, using mafia and black hand interchangeably, using both to refer to a formal criminal organization. Given the history, it wasn't entirely surprising when people in New Orleans suspected the attacks on Italian grocers might be connected to a vendetta or a black hand blackmail attempts. However, New Orleans detective John D'Antonio rejected the idea, saying that the Black Hand attack wouldn't have left any survivors, as the Axeman frequently did, which was something we'll see as we're about to get into these crimes.
Right.
A lot of people survived,
yeah,
which is surprising considering, you've pretty much got them as vulnerable as they could be, sleeping in their bed, and you've got a fucking axe. So,
yeah, I know. I was
like
surprised.
My success rate,
like,
it's pretty dark to talk about. It would pretty much be like 100. I'd be batting 100.
If you had to axe
a
people
guy's person sleeping and I got an axe, I don't think they're getting up.
Dude, but sometimes the human body is very resilient.
That's true. That's something we
and
find
then
out
other
too.
times
Humans are tougher than
it's
you think.
super sensitive. You hear people like falling out and they're running a 5K or whatever and they die. And it's just like, what? Right. We can die doing that? But you get hit in the head 3 times with an axe and you live. Like it's crazy, our bodies.
Very true.
It's a crazy world we live in.
Right. Frank Mooney, New Orleans police superintendent, was convinced that these were the work of a fiend or a Jekyll and Hyde personality like Jack the Ripper. Suddenly the impulse to kill comes upon him and he must obey it. In other words, what we'd now call a serial killer. And that's true. That's pretty much what I believe. And this will be proven by when we go through this timeline of crimes, this crime line, if you will.
I wonder.
It's a fiendish act that this person is doing. It's just like it's impulsive. They can't help themselves. They must just go out and kill again.
Right.
They get some sort of pleasure out of it, whether it's sexual or just.
Like this sounds so obvious to us now.
Power.
But imagine the, the friction that he had coming up with this theory. Mm-hmm. Like how many people, like how would this be perceived at this time? Like what?
So
Somebody's okay. You just don't want to do your job.
There's
you just don't want to look into it.
Yeah.
There's not somebody just out here killing.
Right. It's got to be financially motivated or some kind of organized crime.
It's like a plumber coming to your house.
Vendetta. Probably, they thought it was some kind of revenge act or for robbery. I think is so common then, and then something like a serial killer was not ever even thought of.
Right.
Or a fiend out there just killing just for the act of killing.
Right. It sounds silly to them. It seems like it's like a plumber coming to your house and like you got water coming from everywhere, and it's like, yeah, well, you got a leak.
Right.
And you just walk out.
Right.
Sometimes things leak. And they're like, what? No.
What did I call you?
Right.
Why did you come through the panel in my door?
Right? You bastard. Knocked it out with the fucking monkey wrench?
Right. Okay, so let's get into the crimes
Yeah,
finally.
Jesus Christ.
It's probably the longest we've
what
taken
kind of
to
show
get to
is
the moita.
this? God damn.
So the Cleavers, alleged victims, which, this may or may not be connected to the Axeman. That's to be debated.
Right.
The 1911 to 1917 attacks covered in the book are widely contested. It's not agreed upon as if they were actually early Axeman crimes. Actually.
Actually,
Get it?
Axeman?
Nice.
Actually.
That was so bad.
Stupid low today.
There are obvious similarities, so that's why we're going to include them in this. So we'll talk 1910 to 1911. On Saturday, August 13th, 1910, Harriet Crudy awoke from a sound sleep to a man staring over her holding a meat cleaver. Horrifying.
Yeah.
He demanded money from her and said, "Or I'll do to you what I did to your husband." She looked down and saw her husband laying on the bed covered in blood. She did the sensible thing and gave the man $8 she had under her pillow, which was not a small amount of money in 1910. It's approximately $200 today.
Oh, wow.
The man said, "Is that all you got? I want all of it." She told him it was, although she did have more substantial amount of money under the mattress. I like that.
Yeah.
Because it actually, he left. So
Right.
she was convincing enough. That
And
she
that's a
didn't
lot
have
of
enough.
money to have,
That's a
I mean,
shitload.
just laying around.
Right. Yeah, if $8 is $200, what's the substantial?
Right. I think she had like 65 or something like that. I remember the
pretty
book
good.
saying, yeah, she had like 60-something dollars underneath the mattress.
Yeah. The man left through Crudy's grocery store / bar on his way out, took their pet mockingbird with him. which
That
is
bastard.
so creepy, right?
Son of
Like,
a
why would
bitch.
you, like, that's really, like, vitriolic. Like, what? It's bad enough you hacked her husband with a
Right.
fucking axe, but you got to take their pet bird, too.
Yeah. Because maybe he like, when he went in, he was like, he whispered his name to it or whatever, and then he just
bird
kept
was gonna-
saying it.
Dude, it is a mockingbird. It's a mockingbird.
Hi, Frank. Hi, Frank. Shut the fuck up. You're coming with me.
Right.
You're fucking Dumb and Dumber, that bird.
Our pets' heads are falling off.
My husband got killed with an axe.
Frank
Our
did
pets'
it.
heads are falling off.
Frank did it. Frank did it.
Frank did it. Totally Frank.
That's got to be what it was, bro. I got to shut this bird up.
Yep.
He left the meat cleaver in the yard and put on the shoes that he had taken off. So, true cat burglar. He was very silent going through the home.
Yeah.
Very efficient at getting into homes quietly and like maneuvering through the home, and like he would be over you in your bed through the mosquito net before you knew it.
This may be a dumb question, but do we have toe prints? Can people pull toe prints from
Well,
a
back
crime?
then, fingerprinting wasn't even a
I
common.
know, but can they now? Do we all have different toe prints?
I was wondering that because it sure looks like it.
Yeah.
Because I had like a blister on my toe and the skin died, and I peeled it off, and I was looking at it, I was like, God damn, that's like a fingerprint. Look at that.
Interesting.
It's kind of gross, right?
Yeah. But if everybody, nobody commits crimes without shoes on.
You never
But-
hear about someone getting busted by a toe
Yeah,
print, right?
I know. That's what I'm saying.
They don't toe print you when you go down to the police station. either.
surely somebody's been busted by their toe print.
I wonder if what if it was the same as your fingerprint? Like it was the same
Oh,
shit. Like you wouldn't be able to
exactly the
tell the
same?
difference between a toe print and a fingerprint, like your thumb or your big toe.
My big toe is bigger than my thumb, though. I
Well,
think
yeah,
most
it
people's
should
are.
be.
So it's a bigger print.
Yeah, you got a fucking freakish thumb if it's bigger than your big toe. You weirdo.
Right. Or you smashed it with a hammer
Fucking
trying
never-
to knock
undefeat-
somebody's door panel out.
Undefeated in thumb wars, smashing their shit.
You just let it go limp.
Fall on them. The weight of
Yeah,
it
they
just
can't even
crushes
fucking
their
let-
thumb. We are really going off on tangents. In this one. Who would have thought we'd get to toe thumb wars? Jesus, big toe wars. So so he takes the bird, and somehow he was seen like sitting on a stoop, smoking a cigarette with this bird in a cage, and he
Yeah.
then obviously let the
He
bird,
let it go.
He let the bird go. He didn't kill it, so the bird's off, talking nonsense up in a tree. Frank did it. Frank did it.
did it. Frank.
And unfortunately, the police never heard the bird.
Right. Some
Confessing.
eagle just fucking killed it. It's like crushed its face.
Frank did it. Short and fat. Frank did it.
Frank. We talking about from Always Sunny?
The new season of Sunny has been phenomenal, by the way.
Oh, dude, don't tell me. I haven't watched it yet. I got them recorded.
So after the crime, one of the young sons woke up and started crying, to which made the mother panic even more. She had desperately tried to wake up her husband after trying to get up. He fell semi-conscious onto the bed, or off of the bed. She ran into the street and tried to get help from a neighbor for 15 minutes. She ran from house to house, pleading for help, but no one opened the door. She finally roused an off-duty police officer who worked nearby. Crudy was taken to the charity hospital. Police discovered that the intruder entered through the home by removing a pane of glass from their kitchen door and prying it open using a railroad tie shoe pin, which is something very common. not only for this person or this Axeman or Hatchet Man, if you will,
Okay.
but robbers in general like to use these railroad shoe pins because they were easy
Like
to
the first pry bar or whatever.
exactly.
Yeah, crowbar.
It's basically just a curved steel bar.
Right.
On the night of September 20th, 1910, someone entered the home of Joseph and Conchetta Risotto. The Rosettos, owned a combination grocery, bar, pool room, and it was very popular. The intruder carried a stolen meat axe similar to the butcher's cleaver and entered the house through an unlocked window. The first blow hit Conchetta, breaking her right cheekbone. She twisted away from the attacker as he struck her repeatedly on the left side of her face. God. So he attacked the woman first. He walked around to the other side of the bed and struck Joseph twice in the face, one blow slicing completely through the cartilage of his nose, which we talked about.
That is brutal.
That phrase, that image really struck with Michael, the image of that axe kind of splitting
When you
someone's
imagine just something hitting right on the bridge of the nose and just cutting it straight into your face. How do you, I'd like to see a post picture of this guy because he survives, right?
nose. He does, yeah.
I mean, I would just like to see. It would speak volumes. It does speak volumes that he survived about the resistance of the human body. It's crazy. Or resilience, rather.
Right. The intruder then dropped the meat axe and made his way out of the house. He did not take anything with him. Joseph was awake now and tried to get up as he felt something warm running down his face. He was blinded by the blood in his eyes and he fell out of bed. He crawled across the floor on his hands and knees, feeling around blindly for matches. So this is time before even everyone had electricity. The blood running down his eyes stung, but he was able to light a lamp. He felt way over to the dresser, reached for his revolver, and fired 2 shots into the air outside of his window, presumably not into the house. Neighbors quickly came to the aid and sent for an ambulance and the police. The scene in their bedroom was very grisly. Blood soaked their bed and painted their floor. Traces of Miss Rosetto's hair lay bloody on the bed. She laid on a bed pleading for help.
Man, for him to have the insight to fire 2 shots right there, to just fire 2 shots just to get people,
as
just
quick
to get
as
help.
possible.
Yeah, that's interesting.
Well,
Unless he was trying to fire at the guy. That would be my first instinct. I'd be like, where is he, motherfucker? I'd be looking through blood. I'd be like,
fucking neighbor gets shot.
where's the dark red spot in this fucking room? I'm going to take his ass out.
Right. Unfortunately, though, the people responded quickly, but the ambulance was not able to reach them due to the rutted roads in their neighborhood. Charity Hospital had recently replaced their horse-drawn ambulance with a motorized one. Motherfuckers.
Yeah. But they wouldn't
So
come
this
out that
fucking
far.
old shitty car couldn't make it over a bumpy road yet because it had like bicycle tires.
Right. It had like wooden tires where they sanded smooth. This will make for a better ride.
Right. Just take the horses, you assholes, until you get a real car.
Right.
Rescuers had to carry the Rosettos 4 blocks on stretchers to get to the ambulance. So basically, the ambulance is like, yeah, we can't get out there. You're going to have to carry him over to us, bitch.
Yeah.
On June 28th, 1911, Joseph Davy took 30 hours to die. The doctors at the hospital were surprised how hard he fought. His brains had been bashed out of his skull, and he should have died on scene. That night, Joe had closed his grocery by himself, and his wife had gone to bed early. He closed the register and took the cash with him into the bedroom. The door didn't close properly, so Davy put several seltzer bottles on top of the door as a makeshift alarm. He kept a loaded revolver on his bedside table. This reminds me of the Golden State Killer, the dude whose girlfriend was staying over, and he had taken all these precautionary. He had a pit bull, remember? He had a shotgun, a loaded shotgun in the corner of his bedroom. And
very similar scenario.
Golden State Killer went in there, had unloaded his shotgun and hid it under the cushions of the couch, and then had made friends with his pit bull, and then came in the middle of the night and did what he did. But you think you got all these precautions, and sometimes these dudes are just
sometimes
too
they've
good
already
at what they
considered
do,
it.
man. They, crazy. Like, because this the makeshift alarm he had set up on the door that didn't fully close. You would think that if you push that door open, those things would fall, make a noise. That's not what happened, unfortunately. Something woke his wife Mary in the middle of the night as she looked over in the middle of the night to see a stranger in the middle of the bedroom. She tried to shake Joe awake, but he only moaned in response. The intruder asked Mary where the money was, but she simply stared, too frightened to respond. The intruder then grabbed a heavy porcelain mug and hit her on the side of the head, knocking her unconscious. When she came to, the intruder was gone. She had cuts in her arm and could feel the blood dripping down her face. She was then worried that the man was still in the grocery. Would he come back to kill them if she screamed for help? She laid quiet and perfectly still, hoping that he wouldn't return. Early the next morning, someone came to the grocer to buy some bread. I think he was either buying bread or delivering bread. I've heard both, to be honest. I've heard several different theories on this. I've heard the man was the one who stumbled and met this person who was making this delivery as well.
Right.
So I've heard but either way, I think there was a bread delivery the next morning, and this store was supposed to be open by then.
I was just
And so the guy came around to their bedroom window, like, "Hey, when are you guys opening or whatever?"
Yeah.
She comes over, she's got blood on her head, and she's saying, "We're not open today" or whatever. And he's like, "What's going on?" He's then alarmed by this.
right.
He then goes. I think he woke a neighbor or something like that, and had them come over and check out the scene. The man knew something was wrong and eventually noticed the blood on her face. He continued to question her, and she eventually said she couldn't wake her husband because he was bleeding. He was discovered lying on the bed, soaked in blood. His skull was badly fractured, and his brain was swelling from the trauma. Police were sent to investigate, and the Davies were sent to Charity Hospital. When they arrived, they found the seltzer bottles by the door. Davies' homemade alarm had not worked, so they had basically taken them off the top of the door somehow and placed
Okay.
them on like dresser, like sat his alarm, just kind of like.
So picture this, dude. I mean, we mentioned it, but the part where you said she lay quiet and perfectly still, hoping he wouldn't return. So some guy
Meanwhile,
just
her husband's
broke
dying
in.
next to her in the bed.
Right. Somebody broke in, bashed you over the head with a vase.
Vase.
All you know. That's all you know. And then, so you just lay there all night, not knowing that your husband is dying beside you. She don't even know, right?
Right.
And maybe she does, but
I think
then
she
what does
knew.
she do? She's still too afraid to do anything.
Yeah, I
'cause
think she
what,
knew,
is
but
he
she was
still
frozen.
in the room?
I think she knew, but she was frozen in fear.
Could you and then she stayed there all night.
Right. Yeah, it's horrifying.
Oh my God.
Yeah. I mean, we've not been there to that extent, but you've ever been like really woken up by like a terrible nightmare and like you just like frozen in bed, like you don't want
Yeah.
to move? Like, I'm sure it's that times 10, you know?
Right. Oh yeah, definitely.
So that kind of wraps up the Cleaver murders or attacks. Mm-hmm. And then we jump ahead 6 years, and this next one may or may not be, the work of the Axeman or the Cleaver. But it is important to note because it goes along with the timeline,
Right.
and the vicious attack that seemingly for no reason. In 1917, Vincent Merriman was a Frenchman who was sleeping in the loft of his barn. On May 19th, 1917, someone took a hammer from the ground floor of the barn, crept up to where he was sleeping, and hit Merriman in the head at least 7 times. The intruder then left, leaving $150 cash had in his pocket, and purportedly dropped the hammer on his way out. Merriman succumbed to his injuries at the hospital 5 days after the attack.
I think he concocted meningitis.
Oh yeah, he had a bacterial
Yeah.
infection. Yeah, but I mean, it fits.
So-
It fits in that the perp found
Right.
a weapon at the scene,
Okay, so
struck someone, didn't take any money, and then
Right.
just ran off and left the fucking hammer there. Right?
right. So I think I got a little bit of a theory here. Okay, so let's go back to the Cleaver murders.
Yeah.
So this is what I think. I think they are connected because I think he was a robber at first or a burglar. He had broken in, was probably looking to steal what he could, get food, money,
Someone
whatever he
woke up.
wanted. The husband woke up. He grabbed what was close because the husband was also a butcher. He had a butcher shop, grocer.
Yeah.
Then he grabbed what was close, the Cleaver, killed him, right? And then the lady wakes up, so he has to deal with her or whatever. Then he takes that Cleaver, right? So then the next one, he uses the Cleaver again. Maybe when he used the Cleaver on the guy, maybe he kind of liked it a little bit. He liked it a little bit more. He liked the power. He liked that lady stayed quiet all night, the fear that he struck in her, you know what I'm saying? So then
power.
yeah. So then he goes to the next one, uses the same Cleaver. Now, I don't know how many skulls you can break with a Cleaver before it breaks because, you know what I mean? It's not made for that kind of shit.
Right.
So I think he probably ditched the Cleaver there and was like, on my next one, I'm going to have to get something else. I need something else that's on the property that I can leave. So
axe
that's why,
or a hatchet.
well, he uses the hammer.
Yeah. The hammer.
Maybe
in the hay
on the
barn?
hammer one. Maybe he tried out the hammer and then he had to hit the guy 7 times. And then maybe he's like, well, that's not a good idea. And therefore, I think that's how he came
Once
finally
again,
to
the
the
guy
conclusion of the
probably
axe.
would have lived too. The hammer guy probably would have lived if it weren't for the infection.
Right. So then he goes, well, I need something heavier and I need something sharper and something durable and something I can leave,
That's
something
why
I
this
can't
case
take.
That's why this case is fun because you get all kinds of. Everyone's got their own theory. I can't stray from the fact that they were all Italian grocers. That is just too specific.
Yeah.
I think it's a vindictive. I think it's a white guy who's American. Who is angry about the Italians taking over starting all these businesses and kind of taking over. He's racist and he's lashing out, or it's some competition with another grocer, something along those
But
lines.
here's
It's just
another
too
thing.
specific of a demographic to target.
Okay, I'm gonna propose a reason why he may have picked Italians. Remember what we were talked about earlier. They don't trust the government. They don't trust the law. They are not going to the police. They're not cooperating with the police.
Yeah.
So when you kill these people, their families are not talking to the police because they don't want to, and they're not liked by the police anyways. So they're easy targets. And if you're looking just to fulfill,
If you're a fiendish criminal,
Yeah.
just likes to do this,
Yes.
that'd be an easy demographic to target because they're not going to talk to the police. That makes sense.
Precisely.
That makes a lot of sense.
precisely.
Makes a lot of sense. There's been a lot of serial killers that have targeted prostitutes for the same reason.
Right?
A lot that if there's also a Netflix special that I want to watch, maybe we can do a case on it where there was a lot of African American girls, I think in like Chicago or a low poverty area that were
Right.
killed because the police wouldn't really look into them as much.
Yeah. It's a sad reality.
The
dude.
downtrodden
That's-
get targeted a lot more by these fiendish criminals.
Right. Well, a lot of the freeway killers, they all took people who were
Gay.
who were lower level, viewed in that time as lower citizens, whether they be gay or prostitutes or whatever they were.
All right, so on May 29th, 1917, Joseph Girard, someone entered the house of Joseph Girard, who was also French. Oh, we got another differing off. This may go with your theory a little bit more.
Right. Because Vincent Merman, the hammer guy, was French.
Exactly. This guy ran a small grocer, so sticking to that. Like the grocers.
Yeah.
Imagine being a grocer during this time. It's kind of scary.
They probably had the most money in those neighborhoods. I would think because people were grocery shopping like twice a day. There's a lot of money being spent
Yes.
because there was no refrigerators. I mean, if you're lucky enough to have an ice box, get a big block of ice and put it in something. But then how long does that last? You know what I mean?
Right.
So a lot of these people were shopping twice a day.
God,
and they didn't have
that's
all these
annoying.
preservatives like we have now.
That's annoying. I'm annoyed to go to the grocery store once a week. Imagine having
dude,
to fucking go
seriously.
every goddamn day to
I
make a
know.
fucking meal.
I hate it.
Jesus. Just hit me with an
Twice a
axe,
day,
please.
Twice a day. The average family was just hit me with an axe. Oh my
If I have
god!
to grocery shop every day, just hit me with an axe.
You guys don't even have self checkouts. God damn it!
Put me out of my misery. Joseph Girard owned a small grocery and lived in the back of the house with his wife and 7 children.
See,
Also hit
they're
me with
grocery
it.
shopping
Also
3
hit me
times a day.
Also hit me with an axe.
Also
Also
hit
got 7 kids.
No way, bro. You got so much help.
That's true. If they're good kids.
Right.
The intruder entered the house through the back door and went right to Girard's bedroom. The intruder, wielding a short-handled hatchet. Oh, that's hatchet. That's a new. Maybe we found a new wrinkle in
Have we?
wood chopping. A hatchet.
A haxit?
It's a mix between a hatchet and an axe.
Oh, okay. Isn't that? I mean, I don't
Or a
think
new
that
weapon.
works.
Maybe a new weapon.
I feel like hatchet and axe cover all those types because once it hits a certain length, you're like, okay, it's just an axe.
Nah, bro, I'm selling haxits.
Haxits. You're gonna get like a medium.
TrueCrimeGuys.com store, Haxit.
It's like it's got
Available
like
next week.
it's got like a 2-foot handle or something.
Yeah, it's
Okay.
it's whatever you go. So you measure the hatchet,
Right. 'Cause
and you
I think-
measure an axe, and then you go right
I
between.
think a
them.
1
It's gonna be a
foot.
haxit.
I think a 1-foot handle. You're talking about a hatchet, right?
Right.
A 3-foot. You're talking about an axe.
I feel like an axe is just a little too long, and a hatchet's just a little too short.
That's true.
That's my selling point.
Dude, I like it. I think we're ready for Shark Tank.
Too bad Billy Mays is dead.
He'll sell the shit out of that.
Come and get your hatchet.
Come in. Is your axe too long?
Is your hatchet too
Is your
short?
hatchet too short?
Right there with you. Come get the hatchet.
Stand a little closer to the wood. You got more control.
So this intruder was wielding a short-handled hatchet. Damn it, I can't get it out of my head. Hatchet, often used by butchers. He stood over Joseph Girard and delivered 2 blows to his head, slicing him across the face. Girard's wife rolled over when she heard him making gurgling sounds and came face to face with the intruder. The intruder hit Girard's wife twice, and was swinging for a 3rd time when his hatchet became entangled in the mosquito netting. See, if he had the hatchet, it wouldn't have happened.
No.
The Girard's 8-year-old daughter had woken up by this time and started screaming. The intruder punched her in the face and slashed her once on the forehead. So no qualms with attacking children either, this guy. He ends up killing a baby at one point. Spoiler alert, or I say it's
Jeez.
trigger warning.
Yeah.
Girard's wife was able to get up, get to a side porch, and screamed, "Murder, murder," at which point the intruder fled. Girard's wife told police the culprit was a rival businessman. The man she accused was convicted in a 3-month trial in less than 20 minutes, sentenced to life in prison. So this one,
Jesus.
there was a lot of
She
falsely
just-
accused in
Oh
this,
my
in this
God.
series
She
too,
just
man. So
twisted that.
much.
She's like, who do I need this to be? Who would be convenient? How about a rival businessman?
Right.
His grocery store is right across the street from ours or whatever.
Poor bastard. Although, I mean, there's no telling this guy could have actually been a rival. It could have the right man could have been convicted.
Well, I don't
there's
doubt that
no
he's a rival.
Physical evidence. There's no DNA. We
Right.
don't know. They could have convicted the right man. It could have been. She could have seen him, and
Right, and
that's
this-
why she said that.
And this is technically Hatchet Man too. So
Right.
I don't know.
It's true. Let's go into the Indolina family. Mary Indolina woke up in the middle of the night on December 22nd, 1917, to her father screaming. Her first instinct was to run to him, but her mother intercepted her and urged her to get the siblings out of the house. She told Mary that her father had been attacked and she feared for the lives of the children. Indolina was taken to Charity Hospital along with his two sons who had minor injuries. Indolfino and Anna Indolina ran a grocery store in New Orleans. Their residence was in the same building on the backside of the grocery. Anna awoke that night to a man in her bedroom standing over her husband holding a revolver and a hatchet. So adding a gun to
Came
the
with
mix.
a backup plan,
Adding a gun to the mix.
right?
He hit her husband 4 or 5 times with the hatchet and then left the room. On his way out of the house, he stopped in the boys' room. They had woken up because Anna was screaming, and the intruder hit one in the head with the hatchet and the other in the arm with his revolver.
Damn.
He exited through the kitchen and left the hatchet on his way out. He had entered the house through a panel on the back door. The panel,
Yep.
the door panel guy,
The
killer
door panel.
guy,
The
killer.
panel act. What'd you call it? A
Haxit, the Haxit panel killer.
The Haxit panel.
That's
killer.
terrible.
That's pretty bad. Yeah.
Right, but this one is very fiendish. Like just kind of like running around the house, like randomly attacking people. Like attacks the white.
I feel like when you imagine your worst nightmare, this is like the climax of every horror movie.
Right.
Where he finally gets in and he's like running around the house or whatever it is,
Just
and people are
randomly
running into
attacking people,
rooms,
right?
hiding. It's super black. You only see the moonlight on one side of their face.
The stuff that police try to convince you never happens. Like usually it's a personal thing. Like it's you know,
Right.
the victim knows the
right. There has to
perpetrator.
be a reason. Just be good to people and you'll
But
live
he's
forever.
Freaking he hits the husband, several times in the face, with the axe, and then he's going into the kid's bedroom, hitting one. He's cutting
Yeah.
one in the face, hitting the other one with a
Shooting
gun.
one.
He's
He's
just
just
fucking running amok in here.
Yeah.
Fiendish behavior.
Just causing chaos.
I think that the hatchet fiend or the axe fiend or
Yeah.
Haxit fiend.
So you're abandoning the panel? You're not trying to fit that in there?
Yeah, I mean the panel is kind of it's where it starts though. It all starts with the panel. He doesn't
Okay.
get in without the panel.
That's true.
Unless
Maybe
there's an
that could
open
be
window.
like the catchphrase. Haxit Man. He doesn't get in without the panel.
So bad. None of these are good, Mike.
No,
We
they're-
just need to stop.
Okay.
We just need to stop.
Fair enough.
Let's go
I'm
back.
just trying to help you. I don't know.
Okay, so all the ones we went through, we kept mentioning Axeman, all that stuff. The Axeman victims, when you look into this case, it tends to start like the common belief is that his first victims were these two, the Maggios. The Axeman crimes in the annals of history kind of start with Joseph and Catherine Maggio. A lot of the crimes we just went through, they've been later connected because of so many similarities and all that.
Right.
But these are the Axeman. The Axeman crimes start now. Joseph Maggio was an Italian grocer who was attacked on May 22nd, 1918, while sleeping alongside his wife, Catherine, at their home while they owned and ran a bar room and grocery, all connected in one.
Right.
The killer broke into the home and then cut the couple's throats with a straight razor. Upon leaving, he bashed the heads with an axe, possibly to conceal the real cause of death.
Yeah. And this is one of those few ones where he used both the straight razor and the axe.
Joseph survived the attack, but died minutes after being discovered by his brothers Jake and Andrew Maggio. Catherine died prior to the brothers' arrival. Her throat had been cut so deep her head was nearly severed from her shoulders.
Jesus. Now, I notice we have here, like, it is possible that he used the axe to conceal the throat slits, but I think that would only be the case if this was somebody other than the axe murderer.
I think you're right. And then someone gets arrested due to the fact that is the straight razor.
Right.
And this person is connected to that
And
straight
it
razor.
kind of makes a little bit of sense here in this situation.
Yeah. In the apartment, law enforcement agents found the bloody clothes of the murderer as he had previously changed into a clean set of clothes before fleeing the scene. Also another thing that kind of points to it not being, the same perp that we've been talking about.
Right.
A complete search of the premises was not completed by police after the bodies were removed. Yet later, the bloody razor was found on the lawn of a neighboring property.
Why do that? Why drop it?
Well, if it is,
dropped it on accident?
if it is the the Axeman of New Orleans, that's a common thing. You would leave whatever, the axe, the hatchet, whatever, laying in the yard or whatever.
This could have been a decoy killing just to throw them off. Throw 'em off the scent.
There was a lot of talk about copycat killings with this too because of how popular it became in the media. Police ruled out robbery as motivation for the attacks as money and valuables left in plain sight were not stolen by the intruder. The razor used to kill the couple was found to belong to Andrew MICHEAL, the brother of the deceased, who ran a barber shop. So that's when, the whole razor theory kind of backfires on this guy.
What if the Axeman broke in to his house, stole the razor?
Well, the razor had been stolen from their store. Or not stolen. So here. His employees, Esteban Torres, told police that MICHEAL had removed the razor from his shop 2 days prior to the murder, explaining that he had wanted to give it to a professional to sharpen it.
Okay.
So if it looks very suspicious,
Yeah, that does.
yeah, that just doesn't look good. That you're removing your blade from your store to get sharpened, and then it's used in a murder 2 days later.
Right.
No good.
No.
MICHEAL, who lived in the adjoining apartment to
there.
his brother's residence, discovered his slain brother, and you're the one who found them too.
Right. Not to
Thee
mention.
who smelt it dealt it. Clause.
That's right. Never find dead bodies, people. And if you do, just keep walking.
He discovered them 2 hours after the gruesome attacks had occurred upon hearing strange groaning noises through the wall. He blamed his failure to hear any noise related to the attacks that had occurred in the early morning hours on his intoxicated state as he had returned home after a night of celebration prior to his departure to join the Navy. So he's also saying he's drunk too. So
Okay.
it's your razor that was used.
Intoxicated.
You're
Just
the first one to
sharpened your
discover
razor.
them,
Yeah.
and you're drunk.
And they had some sort of dispute, did they? Was there any kind of dispute between the
I don't
family
think
members?
so. Police,
Okay.
however, were nonetheless surprised that he failed to hear the intruder as he made forced entry into the home. So they were surprised. This dude didn't hear anything, supposedly. Andrew MICHEAL became the police chief's prime suspect in the crime, yet was released after investigators were unable to break down his statement as well as his account for an unknown man who was supposedly seen lurking near the residence prior to the murders. So
Now, in some of these
very
cases,
close to getting pinned on this.
in some of these cases, especially the earlier ones, I think like one of the early Cleaver cases, it was suspected that somebody, the perp of that crime was already in the home, like before, like maybe days before.
Oh, yeah, I know which one you're talking about.
You know what I'm talking about?
It's like the farmhouse out there.
Yeah, like maybe days before, because
that
there was
one's
like
bogus.
human excrement and like
That
cigarettes
one,
and stuff.
I definitely don't think that one was connected.
You don't?
No, not at all.
You don't think that guy could have done this
No.
here because they didn't know how he got in undetected and stuff?
I think that was a more personal attack, the one you're talking about, where the person hid out waiting for them.
Okay, maybe.
That one was way back, too. That one was like before any of it, too, even before the...
I think it was the first Cleaver murder.
But
And the last axe murder, he did the same thing. The very last one. Or the perp had done the same thing, hid in the house.
yeah, there's a lot of weirdness to this.
Right.
Let's start. Louis Bessemer and Harriet Lowe. Louis Bessemer and his mistress, Harriet Lowe, were attacked in the early morning hours of June 27th, 1918, in the quarters at the back of his grocery. Bessemer was struck with a hatchet above his right temple, which resulted in a possible skull fracture. Lowe was hacked over the left ear and found unconscious when police arrived at the scene. The couple was discovered shortly after 7 a.m. on the morning of the attack by John Zanka, a driver of the bakery wagon who had come to the grocery to make a routine delivery. So if you're like a bread delivery guy or something during this time, you're pretty high chances you're going to discover a murder scene. As many of these grocers were getting murdered, you're just like the guy that comes stumbling across this shit all the time.
Right. Well,
Got your bread. Oh shit.
Another one.
Right.
Let me call it in.
Yeah.
Got another canceled order today, boss.
Seriously. Zanka found Bessemer and Lowe in a puddle of their own blood, both bleeding from their heads. The axe, which had belonged to Bessemer, was found in the bathroom of the apartment. Bessemer later stated to police that he had been sleeping when he was bashed over the head with a hatchet. Almost immediately, police arrested potential suspect Louis Ubicon, a then 41-year-old African-American man who had been employed in Bessemer's store just a week before the attacks. So they tried to
he was fired, and
they tried to just
thought he
pin
was...
it on a black guy is what they tried to do.
Oh, okay, that's convenient. This guy was near the place.
Right.
Like what?
Yeah.
That's the only evidence they had, is that he was employed there.
Yeah.
Just a week. Okay. All right.
No evidence existed which could have proved the man guilty, yet police arrested him nonetheless, stating that Obicon had offered conflicting accounts of his whereabouts on the morning of the attack, shortly after the attempted murder. So if you just kind of forgot what you what you did on a given day and you're
Right.
black, you might just be arrested for murder.
Dude, it's easy to forget what you do on a given day too. If
I always
nothing
forget what
important
I did.
happens,
I don't know what I did an hour ago.
right?
Were we here recording? I don't know.
Probably.
Yeah, it's been an hour.
Yeah, it's been over.
I guess there's evidence.
Yeah, there we go. It's the only way we know.
I have an alibi.
What is this?
Shortly after the attempted murder, Lowe stated that she remembered having been attacked by a mulatto, half white, half black man, if you're not sure what that is. And it's kind of a derogatory term at this point.
Okay.
But back then, very commonly used. Yet her statement was discounted by police due to her disillusioned state. That's another common theme in this, is that, you know, these people would be bashed with an axe and then they're obviously have very groggy memory of what happened.
Right.
And it was almost getting people thrown in prison for murder because they'd be like, I think it was
And
definitely like a mulatto guy. But it was kind of dim lit. Like,
Right.
It's like, come on.
And then a lot of
lady.
the stuff he did was like very theatrical.
Yeah.
A lot of these crimes were very theatrical. It was like, and I think imagine being a witness and having to say things like, "Oh, he took my bird and then he let it go on the porch."
Right.
Like, what? What are you talking about? You just got hit in the head. Like, you don't know what the fuck you're talking about.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah,
It's
you
easy to
just-
discount this kind of stuff.
Yeah, you did just get hit with an axe. So
Right.
take
Just
that with
calm
a grain
down.
of salt.
Cover yourself with a blanket or whatever we do here.
All right. Robbery was said to be the only possible explanation for the attacks, yet no money or valuables were removed from the couple's home. Ubakan was later released as police were unable to gather sufficient evidence to hold him accountable for the crimes. Thankfully, because they had nothing on the guy.
Right.
The Times-Picayune.
Picayune.
So their local newspaper, the Times-Picayune, sensationalized Lowe and her outspoken nature upon discovering that she was not the wife of Bassumer, but his mistress. So she originally told the
Ooh.
police that she was his wife. And
La-di-da.
then in further questioning, they found out a lot more about this Bassumer character, and they started to really dig in and not like what they found there.
Interesting.
This guy was a
see what's going on
international
here.
man of mystery, this Bassumer guy. It opened a whole new bag of worms here. A charity hospital source discovered the scandal when Bassumer asked to be directed to the room of Mrs. Harriet Lowe and was inevitably denied access, as no woman by that name was a patient because they weren't married. Bassumer's legal wife arrived from Cincinnati in the days immediately following the discovery, which further inflamed the ongoing drama. Lowe further gained media attention as she repeatedly made statements which involved her dislike of the New Orleans chief of police, as well as her reluctance to comply with police questioning. After the truth of her marital status was publicly revealed, Lowe told reporters from the Times-Picayune that she would no longer aid the police in their investigation, as she suspected that it had been Chief Mooney who was first informed the press of the scandal. So she's mad
Okay,
because
so she felt like he betrayed her, and then
he outed her.
right.
Media attention soon turned to Bassumer himself as a series of letters written in German, Russian, and Yiddish were discovered in a trunk of the man's home. Police suspected that Bassumer was a German spy. Now, this is World War I we're talking about.
Right.
We're at war, and this is one of the Great War. This is the Great War. This is like one of the biggest body counts. I mean, we got involved in some
Is
shit.
that how you determine how great a war is?
Well, it was called the Great War, but
No, I'm just speaking with you.
But yeah, there's a lot of German propaganda going on in America at this time. You know, obviously they were trying to take over the world, so
Right.
it's probably rightfully
Yeah,
so.
you'll have some people
And you're
that,
a little-
that aren't okay with that.
You're looking sideways at anybody that can speak German. You're like,
Yeah.
"Oh, you working for the Germans? You working for the Nazis?
Your hair's a little blind, your eyes are a little blue there, fella.
Police suspected that Bassumer was a German spy, and government officials began a full investigation of his potential espionage. Weeks later, after going in and out of consciousness, Harriet Lowe told police that she thought Bassumer was in fact a German spy. So now they're getting confirmation. On
Oh
their
yeah,
beliefs,
definitely.
which led to his immediate arrest. This happened.
That's all we
it's just
need.
like this dude just going around.
Arrest him.
It's so crazy though, like the fallout, right? Because this guy's just kind of, if he is really just a fiend, he's just going around hacking people in sleep.
Yeah.
And then people are
And
getting
people are
arrested
getting
for
arrested
espionage,
left
like,
and right.
fuck, black guys are just like, what the fuck? I didn't do shit.
Yeah, I worked there. He's guilty.
This happened less than 4 months before the end of World War I. So yeah, deep into it there.
Right.
2 days later, Bassumer was released, and 2 lead investigators of the case were demoted due to unacceptable police work.
But
About time.
Well, the police were basically going on a volunteer basis here. Like they were just taking anybody at this time. They needed people. And a lot of these guys were, you know, they weren't equipped. They didn't have any training. When they would fire at culprits and stuff, they would miss, shoot innocent people. There was all kinds of shit going on with cops at this time.
Christ.
Yeah, they were freaking super troopers out
Yeah,
here
so
in
if you're
fucking
getting
New Orleans.
So if you're getting released for unacceptable police work in this time, you're really fucking up. Because standards are not that high.
Right? Yeah, that's what I'm saying.
However, Basumer was once again arrested in August 1918 after Harriet Lowe, who lay dying in Charity Hospital after a failed surgery, stated that it was he who had attacked her more than a month previously with his hatchet. So now she's saying not only is he a German spy, but he's the one who hit me with this hatchet too.
Yeah, why not, right?
He was charged with murder and served 9 months in prison before being acquitted on May 1st, 1919, after a 10-minute jury deliberation. So they must, not have made a very strong case.
Yeah, apparently not.
him.
They were like,
10 minutes.
Nah, that's not enough. He can go.
They decided within 30 seconds, and then they had a nice coffee break before they went out to... Miriam Davis believes there is not enough evidence to suggest... So Miriam Davis, the writer of the book that we read, believes there's not enough evidence to suggest that this was an Axeman attack, and it was more likely a domestic dispute that escalated. Also important to note, Basumer was in prison when Joseph Romano and Mary Cordemelia were killed, so he's definitely not the Axeman himself. She broke it down in the book about how this could have escalated from, like, she gets angry at him, right, because he's constantly... after her about money. It was commonly believed that these two would get into it. They had verbal disputes all the time. Harry, usually about money. Lewis would like give her grief about money all the time. And the book speculated that maybe she lashed out in a moment of anger and jealousy and like hit him with an axe or the hatchet that was laying around. And immediately like was, oh fuck, what did I just do? And then he got a hold of it and let her have it really bad. And that's how this thing could. And then when he realized what he had done, she's laying there unconscious. He then drags her upstairs into the bed and tells the police that, they had awoken to this. They'd been hit in the middle of the night or whatever.
Right. Is this the one where there was bloody footprints found on the steps and stuff?
I don't remember.
Because if it was, that would explain them.
Right. Yeah, exactly. If he dragged her up there and he's got,
You know what would be interesting? Which directions the footsteps were facing, right? That would be it.
If they're going up the stairs.
If they're going up, then obviously somebody was killed downstairs and dragged up.
Right.
But
if they're
going down,
leaving.
it could be anybody.
Right. Important. Also, we haven't really talked about that. Their common police practices during this time. It was not common practice to use fingerprinting yet. It was a thing that they knew about, but they were still doing I believe they're still doing the measurement thing, where they like measure someone's arms, legs, their height, all that stuff. They had like this calculation they would do and it would tell you whether this is the perp or not.
Okay.
Pretty silly, right?
I'll tell you, sir.
They're like, fingerprints, I don't trust them. But let me see the length of your arm. As if like a lot of people don't have the same length arms and legs and shit.
Right, exactly.
I don't know. Maybe I'm just dumb. Maybe there was an exact science to like the shape of your body.
Well, we're not still using it,
But
so it must not have been that
exactly.
good.
A fingerprint, it's known to be unique to each person. So, Anna Schneider was attacked in the early evening hours of August 5th, 1918. She was 8 months pregnant. 28-year-old living on Elmira Street awoke to find the dark figure standing over her, and she was bashed in the face repeatedly. Her scalp had been cut open. Her face was completely covered in blood. Miss Schneider was discovered after midnight by her husband, Ed Schneider, who was returning late from work. Schneider claimed that she remembered nothing of the attack, and she ended up giving birth to a healthy baby girl 2 days after the incident. That is a tough chick.
She is a trooper.
Seriously. Her husband told police that nothing was stolen from the home besides $6 or $7 that had been in his wallet. The windows and doors of the apartment appeared to be not forced open, and authorities concluded that the woman was most likely attacked with a lamp that had been on a nearby table. We've seen that with him in the past, using something like that. James Gleason, who police insisted was an ex-convict, was arrested shortly after Schneider was found. Gleason was later released due to a complete lack of evidence and stated that he originally ran from authorities because he so often had been arrested.
He's just that guy that takes the fall.
Yeah,
that guy on Breaking Bad.
If you're any criminal, especially if you're of a dark complexion, near one of these attacks, man, just fucking run. Because they're going to come get you. Like, you did it for sure.
You definitely did.
Look at that hand. It can hold an axe. Got all your fingers.
Right. Look at that skin. Like, he definitely did it.
He's guilty.
Look at him.
Lock him up. This attack breaks the mold from attacking of Italian grocers, and therefore Miriam Davis does not think this was an Axeman crime. She believes it was more likely an interrupted burglary. Quite possible. That's the problem with this case, and also the interesting part of this case.
With the lamp and stuff, it does seem like he's improvising, if I'm honest.
It's crazy because this case you could reasonably count out a lot, and you can reasonably count all in. Like, really, it's just how you look at it. Like, these could all be the same person, or
these could all be different people,
or just like two of them could be connected.
Yeah. Or maybe it was just easy to get into that bottom panel, and everybody was like, "Duh."
Right.
You know what I mean? And then, I don't know.
Although you had to loudly tap. There was one person who overheard like this knocking sound, and that was the Axeman going through the panel. Like you had to like chisel and knock on the thing, and it sounded like
Interesting.
someone knocking at a door.
It must not have took very long then.
Yeah.
Because if it took a long time.
Well, he said
I
he
mean,
heard
obviously somebody would
knocking
come down
sound,
there.
and it stopped, and then it started again, and that's when he was like, "What is going on?"
Oh, he's listening.
Yeah. So Joseph
people.
Romano was an elderly man living with his two nieces, Pauline and Mary Bruno. On August 10th, 1918, Pauline and Mary woke to the sound of a commotion in the adjoining room where their uncle resided. Upon entering the room, the sisters discovered that their uncle had taken serious blows to the head, which resulted in 2 open cuts. The assailant was fleeing as they arrived, yet the girls claimed to be able to distinguish that he was a white, heavy-set man. He wore a dark suit and a slouched hat.
Slouch hats are pretty cool.
It's like the opposite of the Slender Man. They're not really the opposite, like the Fat Man.
Yeah. It's
'Cause
like
he's wearing like the same outfit almost, except I guess Slender Man didn't have the slouched hat, but like the suit,
right.
kind of weird.
Yeah, the same. Yeah. He's just trying to be scary here, I think. He's just trying to have like some sort of.
You've heard of Slender Man.
And he probably never wears that stuff
Have you
either,
heard of
so-
Robust Man?
Right.
Have you heard of Slouchy Hat Man?
Robust Door Panel Hatchet Man. He's just
Now-
gaining more monikers as we go.
Now with a slouch hat.
New and improved.
Right. Romano, although seriously injured, could walk to the ambulance once it arrived, yet died soon after due to severe head trauma. He was an older man, not as resilient.
Yeah.
The home had been ransacked, yet only Romano's wallet was missing. Authorities found a bloody axe in the backyard and discovered that a panel in the back door had been chiseled away. The Romano murder created a state of extreme chaos in the city, with residents living in a constant state of fear as the Axeman attacks continued. Police received a slew of reports. Right. That would be contradictory there.
Yeah.
In which citizens claimed to have seen an Axeman lurking in New Orleans neighborhoods. A few men even called the report that they had found axes in their backyards.
Yeah, it's probably where you
Or their
keep 'em.
panels are like halfway chiseled out.
Oh, yeah, that would be crazy.
Yeah. John,
I mean, but the reports of seeing an Axeman lurking, people have saw Bigfoot too. You know what I'm saying?
and I found an axe in
know
my
how
backyard.
much-
Didn't
yeah.
you already have one?
Didn't
in
you
your
have
backyard?
one? Don't you? Isn't that your axe?
It just fell over, and now it's like looks in a weird
I
spot.
don't know if I axe out your boy. That's your axe, Jerry.
Right.
Boy, yeah, good point, boy.
John D'Antonio, a then retired Italian detective, made public statements in which he hypothesized that the man who had committed the Axeman murders was the same who had killed several individuals in 1911. The retired detective cited similarities in how the two sets of homicides had been committed as reason to assume that they had been conducted by the same individual. D'Antonio described the potential killer as an individual of dual personalities who killed without motive. This type of individual, D'Antonio stated, could very likely have been normal, law-abiding citizen who was overcome by an overwhelming desire to kill. He later went on to describe the killer as a real-life Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde, as we talked about earlier.
Yeah, I think he's pretty spot on for the majority of these killings.
I agree. And that following this, there was a 7-month break because of the hysteria. I guess all the citizens, we heard in Golden State killer, where it's like everyone is like on high alert, everyone's protecting their shit.
Right, they're reinforcing their door panels, they're hiding their axes.
There's people taking shifts, like one's staying up while the other sleeps, and vice versa. So 7 months later, Charles and Rosie Cordemelia and daughter Mary. Charles was an immigrant who lived with his wife Rosie and infant daughter Mary on the corner of Jefferson Avenue and 2nd Street in Gretna, Louisiana, in New Orleans, suburb of the Mississippi River, so not far from New Orleans. In the early morning of March 10th, 1919, screams were heard coming from the Cordemelia residence. A neighbor had gone over to the Cordemelia's grocery to make some purchases, and upon finding it empty, investigated further. She discovered the Cordemelias in their bed in a pool of blood. Nothing was stolen from the house, but a panel on the back door had been chiseled away, and the bloody axe was found on the back porch of the home. So this is a freaking textbook Axeman crime.
This is
The
definitely
panel, the axe is still there.
Too many
hacked
things,
away in their bed.
Nothing important stolen.
Right. Next door neighbor, Yolando, rushed across the street to investigate. Upon his arrival, Yolando noticed that Charles Cordemelia, his wife, and their daughter had all been attacked by the unknown intruder. They both lay on their bed with their daughter between them. Charles was barely conscious, laying half on and half off the bed, and Rosie lay still. Mary Cordemelia, their 2-year-old daughter, was killed while sleeping in her mother's arms with a single blow to the back of the neck.
Oh, my God,
Horrifying.
dude.
Horrifying. And this neighbor, I believe, was really knew this family, and the daughter, he had little Mary come over and hang out all the time, and he's really liked this little girl. and he was just completely just horrified, and it just really shook him. Frank Cordano, who was at the scene with his parents, ran over to Charles, who managed to whisper, "Frank, I'm dying. Get my brother-in-law," before lapsing into unconsciousness. Frank was determined to fulfill what he had imagined to be Charles' dying wish. He went out to look for the brother-in-law out in front of the house and ran to his sister Lena. He told her, "Don't go in there. If you see what's in there, it will kill you." Frank, determined to find a doctor, was probably a more important errand, and decided that the family would forgive him if he didn't go look for the brother-in-law.
Right,
Instead, he
yeah.
went to get police.
Right.
The doctor arrived and observed the scene and knew that Cornelius needed to go to the hospital immediately. Luckily, someone who was also at the scene had already called for an ambulance. The hospital refused to send their ambulance across the river, citing poor street conditions. Once again, they offered to pick the couple up if someone could get them on a ferry across the river. The Cornelius were rushed in a wagon to the ferry. When they arrived at the charity hospital, it was discovered that both had suffered skull fractures. Rosie needed to have surgery to fix a depressed fracture to relieve the pressure on her brain. So the brain swelling needed to be relieved. She was taken into surgery, and they didn't bother to give her anesthesia, as they figured she wouldn't wake up during the surgery. She survived the operation, but doctors were not hopeful about her chances and sent her back to the ward to die, quote unquote. Charles,
Wow.
Yeah, it's brutal, right? It's a brutal time to live.
I mean, you got to think about where we're at medically at this time, you know?
Yeah.
They did what they could.
Yeah. Charles was released 2 days later while his wife remained in the care of doctors. Upon gaining full consciousness, Rosie made claims that Orlando Giordano and his 18-year-old son Frank were responsible for the attacks. So the neighbors that came, that were first responders, she's blaming now.
What?
It's important to note, Rosie was grilled in the hospital, and the local police were convinced that it was the Giordanos who had committed the crimes. She and her husband were constantly asked, "Who hit you? Was it the Giordanos? Frank did it, didn't he?" So she's basically in a confused state. She'd been beaten with an axe while she slept, and now the police are basically forcing these words, much like we've seen forced confessions.
And Charles was disoriented and weak too. He just wanted to rest. I remember,
it's brutal.
I remember this case now. The different things start to run together when you hear all the different victims. But there's certain things that separate the incidents, and this is one of them. This is kind of like you said, a police. They're forcing. Confessions, and they're almost like yeah, fuck, he did it. Can I go home?
But you got to think about the pressure they're under from the media too at this time, man. The newspapers are all over them. The public's in a frenzy. They just want to get somebody so they can say we got them, and then everybody can relax.
And they also want to put people at peace too. They want people to be like, look, these people only got attacked because they had a feud with this person, or
it's a neighbor that did it because they had a fight or whatever.
They had a dispute.
Yeah, according to the doctor who treated her, Rosie always said that she didn't know who had attacked her. When she was well enough to be released, she was immediately arrested as a material witness and incarcerated in the Gretna jail. So they arrested the victim.
Perfect.
She was released only after she signed an affidavit implicating her neighbors. So, yeah, they forced the confession, and then they forced her to sign an affidavit before they would let her out of fucking jail.
They're basically saying, if you don't give us someone to arrest, we're going to arrest you.
They're blackhanding her.
You're going to
blackmailing her.
arrest me for getting hit with an axe.
Right. And not giving you the person you think did it on a silver platter.
Unbelievable.
Yeah. Orlando, a 69-year-old man who is in too poor a health to have committed the murder. So one of the people that the police are just convinced did it is a fucking 69-year-old man.
Yeah, definitely did it.
And loved the little girl who was murdered in this, by the way. Frank Giordano, more than 6 feet tall and weighing over 200 pounds, would have been too large to have fit through the door panel on the back door. Now, I thought the panel was used to get to the door handle, wasn't it?
I think it was.
So I heard this on several different sources, too. It's like, he's morphing. He's a big guy as far as witnesses, but then he's small enough to get through the panel. You don't have to fit through the panel.
You don't have to fit through the panel.
The top panel, there's 4, right?
Right.
He would chisel out the top whatever one closest to the doorknob or handle, and then basically use that to unlock the door.
Either one, top or bottom, probably.
Yeah. So that doesn't even make any sense either.
No.
That just don't make no sense.
But that is something that was brought up in this case.
It is. But maybe the cops are that dumb.
Well, you know why they say that, don't you? Because the door was locked from the inside. But damn, he could have locked it and then shut it back, duh.
Right. Duh, bro. Leave the axe there, man.
God damn.
Right.
Jeez.
Leave his hackset behind.
You can lock the door, take all the stakes.
Grab your hackset. Charles Cordemelia vehemently denied his wife's claims, yet police nonetheless arrested the two and charged them with murder. Fucking A.
Yeah, there you go.
The men would later be found guilty. Frank was sentenced to hang and his father to life in prison. Frank pretty much simply because they were there across the street, they were the first people on the scene.
What'd I tell you?
And Frank was big enough to do the crimes, but not big enough to fit through the goddamn hole.
And this time, if you found a dead body, just don't do anything.
Right.
Or call in anonymously.
I didn't see shit, man.
I didn't see shit. Hey, there's a dead body over here. You throw your voice and then you jet.
Right? I didn't hear nothing. Charles Cordemelia divorced his wife after the trial. Almost a year later, Rosie announced that she had falsely accused the two out of jealousy and spite and police pressure. Come on, you can't forget that. Her statement was the only evidence against the Giordanos, and they were released from jail shortly after. Thank God they weren't hung for that.
Yeah, seriously.
Or one of them, you know. The other one was old enough to die in jail anyway.
Right.
The younger one was going to hang. This is when we finally maybe hear from the Axeman. And we have,
Yeah, I know you're not convinced.
We're different on different sides of this.
Right.
So the police, after this one, they receive a letter. And this is one of the things that makes this crime so interesting and makes this one, like, you know, so big. Everyone loves this case.
Right.
A lot to do because of this fucking letter, this infamous Axeman letter.
He had a flair for the theatrical.
He did. Do you want to read it?
Sure, I will.
All right.
All right. So this was on March 13th, 1919.
It's from Hell. Hell. This is how he titled it. Hell.
Hell.
March 13th.
Okay. So I'm going to read it exactly like this.
Very
Okay.
dramatic.
Hell, March 13th, 1919. Esteemed mortals of New Orleans, they have never caught me, and they never will. They have never seen me, for I am invisible, even as the ether that surrounds your earth. I am not a human being, but a spirit and a demon from the hottest hell. I am what you Orleanians and your foolish police call the Axeman. When I see fit, I shall come and claim other victims. I alone know whom they shall be. I shall leave no clue, except my bloody axe, besmeared with blood and brains from he who I have sent below to keep me company. Oh my God, this guy. If you wish, you may tell the police to be careful not to rile me. Of course, I am a reasonable spirit. I take no offense at the way they have conducted their investigations in the past. In fact, they have been so utterly stupid as to not only amuse me, but His Satanic Majesty, Francis Joseph, etc. But tell them to beware. Let them not try to discover what I am, for it will be better that they were never born than to incur the wrath of the Axeman. I don't think there is any need of such a warning, for I feel sure the police will always dodge me, as they have in the past. They are wise and know how to keep away from all harm. Undoubtedly, you Orleanians think of me as a most horrible murderer, which I am, but I could be much worse if I wanted to. If I wished, I could pay a visit to your city every night. At will, I could slay thousands of your best citizens, and the worst, for I am in close relationship with the angel of death. Now, to be exact, at 12:15, earthly time, of course, we're on a different schedule here in hell, on next Tuesday night, I am going to pass over New Orleans. In my infinite mercy, I'm going to make a little proposition to you people. Here it is. I am very fond of jazz music, and I swear by all the devils in the nether regions that every person shall be spared in whose home a jazz band is in full swing at the time I have just mentioned. If everyone has a jazz band going, well, then so much the better for you people. One thing is certain, and that is that some of your people who do not jazz it out on that specific Tuesday night. He really said that. I did not make that up. I made up some of this shit, but this part, who do not jazz it out, that's a phrase from this letter.
Yes.
That some of your people who do not jazz it out on the specific Tuesday night, if there be any, will get the axe. Well, as I am cold and crave the warmth of my native Tartarus? Okay. And it is about time I leave your earthly home. I will cease my discourse, hoping that thou wilt publish this, that it may go well with thee. I have been, am, and will be the worst spirit that ever existed, either in fact or realm of fancy. Signed, the Axeman.
Very fucking dramatic.
Obviously a jazz promoter.
Shakespearean almost. Fucking so dramatic.
What if he was
He
like,
calls the police stupid and clever at one point. He's contradicting himself. Wants everyone to be listening. He wants the whole town of New Orleans to just be jazzing out all at the same time on the same night.
I just got a crazy theory. Have you ever seen the movie on Netflix called The Polka King with Jack Black?
No, I
Where he
haven't.
runs like this like insurance scheme where he like gets people to invest, and then he like goes on tour with this polka band, and
Oh,
he
I
like
started
gets
to
people
watch it,
pay.
I think. Isn't
Yeah.
it Adam Sandler in it? I think that's where I tapped out.
I don't think so.
Okay.
But anyways, maybe that's what this guy was doing. He got all these, he signed all these jazz bands to his label, right? And he promised them, he's like, you're going to get plenty of gigs. Trust me.
Right.
There's going to be people asking you to play in their houses.
Jesus.
There's going to be places to play everywhere. All they got to do, he's like, how are you going to do it? Don't worry about it. Just leave it to me. Okay. I got you.
Wow. So it's an Axeman pyramid scheme.
He went a little hard on it. I mean, I'm sure there was other ways, but, yeah, I think that's what happened.
Jesus.
Yeah, those record producing guys, it's a cutthroat industry, I think.
I'm convinced this was a dude trolling. This is a jazz musician trolling. 100%. This is
Why?
one of the earlier trolls we've ever witnessed, pre-internet trolling.
Okay.
This is how you'd had to do it back in the day.
Yeah.
You didn't have like a fucking comment board where you can like just freak everybody out, with your
That's true.
trollish comments.
Right. You can't just get on Reddit.
I think he's
Be
just
creepy.
fucking laughing his ass off when he sees that they publish this, and everybody's fucking, and then that night he's walking around like, they're all playing jazz.
Yeah. This is awesome.
These fucking idiots.
Yeah, I don't know. Maybe
I don't think it's the actual
But,
Axeman.
okay,
The
so-
actual.
play devil's advocate here.
Axeman.
Considering this guy is from hell. Okay. Maybe he wrote this just to gauge the control and power that he had over the area.
That's possible too.
Because what better way? Because they have to show some sort of outward sign.
Mm-hmm.
And then he's also probably feeling a little bit uneasy about his
Exploits.
his social standing.
Oh.
I think even though he's such a horrible person, he realizes that. But I think a certain part of him's like, well, if I can get people to liven up and play music and have fun and dance in my honor,
Those
then
hacks, I think,
that'll-
with the
yeah,
it's
it's like
hatchet
a-
will not have been gone in vain.
exactly. Yeah, I don't know.
With the swift stroke of my axe, I have created joy
I
through
have
this
created joy.
through this county with jazz playing on every corner. He just looks at what he's done has been done a good deed to society.
Yeah.
There's jazz everywhere.
He's jazzing it out, man. That's all he's doing. You got to jazz it out from time to time.
Man, I hope you put some jazz in this intro.
Yeah, I'm definitely
Jazz it up,
definitely
baby.
putting some jazz in it.
Jazzing it up.
Yep, it's gonna be good.
Well,
I hope I didn't do something completely different, like just get high and
I feel
forgot I
like-
told you I was going to.
I feel like that's like just such a movie scene, like jazz playing while a dude is just hacking away at somebody while they're
It's a Quentin
sleeping.
Tarantino film
Yeah,
scene
you gotta
for sure.
you gotta have that like Sin City like vibe to it.
He should
that
do like a
cinematography
film,
type
like
of
an
thing.
old like voodoo type.
Dude.
You know what I mean? Like
Yes.
old Shadow Man type stuff. You know what movie is really underrated? The Princess and the Frog.
Never
It's a
seen it.
Disney movie. Super underrated.
Cool, bro.
Very good
I don't
music.
know how we got here, but
Well,
What's
because
that got to do with
it
an
takes place
Axeman
in
or
New
jazz?
Orleans.
does it?
Yeah.
Okay. All right. Well, okay. I'll give it to you.
Okay,
I'll give you that one.
fair enough. Watch it, especially if you have kids.
Okay. Now, moving on to the next crime of the Axeman. Post-Axeman letter. Steve Boca, a grocer, was attacked in his bedroom as he slept by an axe-wielding intruder on August 10th, 1919. He was known to have been quoted as saying, "Fuck jazz music, I hate it."
Oh, off with his head.
And that was
off
it.
with his fucking head.
I made that up.
Oh.
Boca awoke during the night to find a dark figure looming over his bed. Upon regaining consciousness, Boca ran to the street in a state of confusion to investigate the break-in and found that his head had been cracked open, so he didn't even know. That's my one
Wow.
thing about these is like,
Adrenaline, bro.
I feel like if he did it on the few occasions where he did it right and they died in bed,
Right.
not the worst of the serial killing like deaths. Maybe this is really insensitive, but I'd rather be a victim of his than like a lot of other people we've done, like where you just get hit with an axe, you didn't even know what happened. Like, you're just done. You know what I mean? Like when he did it right, the few times where he killed them right there in bed with the axe and they
Yeah.
didn't survive and they have like horrible mangled face. And
If I have to be murdered, please make it quick. Yes. I mean,
while
I
I'm
think
sleeping,
I think that's
preferably,
obvious.
where I don't
Yeah.
even wake up, just hit with an axe and I'm done. Don't
Right.
even know what happened.
Yeah.
Like that one solace about the baby that he killed horribly. Baby's probably sleeping, didn't even know what happened. Horrible. Don't get me wrong, but at least it was quick and over.
Yeah. Okay.
So yeah, he's running around the street trying to investigate what happened, and then he realizes his head's cracked open. The grocer ran into the home of his neighbor Frank Janusa, who then where he lost consciousness and collapsed. Nothing had been taken from the home, yet once again a panel from the back door had been chiseled away. Boca recovered from his injuries but could not remember any of the details of the trauma. It should be noted that this attack took place after the emergence of the infamous Axeman letter, which we just read. Mm-hmm. The first one, post-Axeman letter.
And was Boca playing jazz music?
Oh, no, hell no. Why, you
Well,
Should have been playing jazz music, right?
Yeah, you should have been playing. I mean, if he gave you a fucking obvious
That
thing,
shit would never be off in my home. I'll tell you right now. It would
Here's
be
my
playing
thing. Okay,
24/7.
Yeah, even if you're skeptical like you are, and it's not,
Still
who
be
cares?
playing it.
Just play fucking jazz music just in case.
Exactly.
We're going, just play jazz music just in case.
If I have to walk, I mean, this is pre-headphones and like iPods, but I'd be walking around listening to metal while jazz music's playing in the
I'd be pulling
house.
a fucking
with headphones.
phonograph in a wagon, bitch, bro. I'd have that thing blasting.
I'd have a jazz band on a
Louis
trailer
Armstrong,
behind my car.
Fucking
But
bring it.
there was no cars. Behind my horse, I'd have a
Yeah.
jazz band on a platform trailer
Yes, please.
playing.
That would be awesome.
Then they would follow me around like hype men playing jazz.
Right. And you just jump in. You just have like one a snare drum on around your waist. You just hit every now and then.
While wearing a full masked helmet as well, just
Mm.
in case the hatchman still came after me.
Just in case, yeah.
Yeah.
Maybe like knight's armor. Just walking around with that
Dude,
shit.
Sleep in it.
Yeah.
It'd be quite hot in
Or-
New Orleans sleeping
Oh,
in.
no. All you have to do is wear like that chain mesh where it drapes
Yeah.
over your head and then down to your chest.
Right.
So it covers the neck.
What a bizarre way to
That
sleep.
axe is not getting in there.
You got mosquito nets around your bed, and
Right.
then you're in mesh from like night fighting times.
Right. Well, do you want to live? All
That's
right,
the
then.
question, right?
And then you need to be blaring jazz. You have to learn to sleep with blaring jazz.
Right.
I mean, I would not suggest improvisational jazz. I don't think that would be a good thing to sleep to. There's no rhythm. There's not an easy rhythm to
Right.
latch
Just
onto
play the
there.
hits, guys. Just play.
Yeah,
the
just
hits.
play the hits. That's right. Just something smooth, something melodic. You know.
Imagine he
Some
walks in with
smooth
his
jazz,
axe, and
rather.
there's a song he really likes going, and he just starts dancing in your living room, and then walks out like, "All right, guys, well played, well played."
Maybe a little jazz flute.
Goes to the neighbor and hacks them. Jesus,
Oh,
we've gone dark.
right. Have Ron Burgundy in there just playing some jazz flute.
Oh my God, we're going too far with this. Jesus. Oh my God. Don't act like you're not impressed.
Yeah. Right.
All right, plowing ahead. Sarah Lauman was attacked on the night of September 3rd, 1919. Neighbors came to check on the young woman who had lived alone, and they ended up having to break into the home when Lauman did not answer the door. They discovered the 19-year-old lying unconscious on her bed, suffering from a severe head injury and missing several teeth. The intruder had entered the apartment through an open window this time and attacked the woman with a blunt object. A bloody axe was discovered on the front lawn of the building. Lauman recovered from her injuries, yet did not recall any of the details from the attack. Another one that survives, man.
That's incredible.
Well, this time they didn't say he used it. He used a blunt object instead of the axe. So there is that.
But there was an axe found outside.
Bloody axe, yeah. So where did that come from? Because
Yeah.
they didn't say that he used that on her. That he used a blunt object on her. So
Interesting.
was
Maybe
it from
he just-
another crime?
Yeah, maybe he just left the axe there as like a calling card. It's like, hey, look, I did this too.
Also,
I don't always use axes. Don't put me in a box, bro.
sometimes I'm the blunt object man. This attack also breaks from the mold of attacking Italian grocers, and therefore Miriam Davis does not think this was an Axeman crime. She believes it was more likely an interrupted burglary once again. So some of these just get kind of tied in, same time period, same
but
area.
how does the axe end up on the lawn? Like, that's the thing.
That is a good question.
I mean, burglary gone wrong, okay, but where does the axe come from?
Maybe she was chopping wood and got a bloody nose the day before.
And just tried to wipe it off with her axe?
It dripped onto her axe.
And that's a lot. That's probably a lot of blood. I mean, I think, I don't know, maybe.
Maybe, man. You just don't know.
Yeah.
You'd have to test that blood.
Maybe.
You have to test that blood. I mean, in 1919, it's not possible.
Right. Okay.
So we'll never know. All right, let's get to the final crime that's thought to be from the Axeman of New Orleans.
All right.
New Orleans. Mike Pepitone. Mike Pepitone was attacked on the night of October 27th, 1919. His wife was awakened by a noise and arrived at the door of his bedroom just as a large axe-wielding man was fleeing the scene. Mike Pepitone had been struck in the head and was covered in his own blood. Blood spatter covered most of the room, including a painting of the Virgin Mary. Miss Pepitone, the mother of 6 children, was unable to describe any characteristics of the killer. The Pepitone murder was the last of the alleged Axeman attacks. So Mr. Pepitone, Mr. Mike Pepitone died. And Miss Pepitone would not let this go.
No, she would not.
She would remember.
Good for her.
And it's weird that she didn't remember the characteristics initially, but then later, a year after the Pepitone murder, a man named Joseph Mumphrey was shot and killed on the West Coast, allegedly by Mrs. Pepitone herself, Esther Albano. She had been eyewitness to his murder. She initially said she didn't have the You know, she didn't have a description of him.
Right.
But then a year later, she's now moved to California, shoots a man named Joseph Mumphrey, and is saying that he is the man that killed her husband. He is the Axeman of New Orleans.
Man, if she's old
It
school,
sounds crazy.
But if she's old school Sicilian, it's not that crazy because she would want to deal with the problem herself.
I get that. So you're saying she followed him to California? He quit
Yeah.
doing what he's doing in New Orleans, and she followed him to California.
Yeah, maybe he
you
knew
know what?
that
That's why
she
she-
saw his face, and so
That's
he's
why
like,
she
"Let me
said-
get super far
You're
away."
Right. That's why she said she didn't have a description because she didn't
Exactly.
want the police to go get him because she wanted street justice.
Yep.
Mumphrey, when the police looked into it, it made a lot of sense. Mumphrey had years earlier been a ringleader of a black male gang which preyed on Nola's Italian community. He was sent to prison in 1911, just after the first series of axe murders, and he was paroled in 1918, around the same time that the Axeman's murders began again. Immediately after the Pepitone murder, Mumphrey left Nola for the West Coast, and the Axeman vanished as well. In spite of all the circumstantial evidence, there was no actual evidence to link him to any of the Axeman crimes, but that's
Right.
to
And
be
there's
expected.
and there's also no evidence of a man by that name dying in California
Right.
or
Yeah, that's
anyone,
another
you know,
issue.
there's no evidence of that, but that doesn't mean it didn't happen. I mean, we were talking about
Right, true crime.
1920, right?
True
I mean,
crime writer Michael Newton searched New Orleans and Los Angeles public records, court records, newspaper archives, and failed to find any evidence of a man with the name of Joseph Mumphrey or a similar name having been assaulted or killed in Los Angeles. Newton was also not able to find any information that Miss Pepitone was arrested, tried, or convicted for such a crime, or indeed had been in California at all. Newton notes that Mumphrey was not an unusual surname in New Orleans at the time of the crimes. It appears that there may have been an individual named Joseph Mumphrey in New Orleans who had a criminal history and may have been connected to organized crime. However, local records for the period are not extensive enough to allow for the confirmation of this. This is really interesting. Now, two of the alleged early victims of the Axeman, an Italian couple with the last name of Chambra, who we talked about,
Right.
were shot by an intruder in the lower 9th Ward home in the early mornings of May 16th, 1912. The man survived while his wife didn't. We got into all that. The newspaper accounts of that one. The prime suspect is referred to by the name of Mumphrey more than once.
Yeah.
Dude, she killed the Axeman.
I think
it
she got
ended
him.
when she shot him.
Yeah.
And when you look into his
His jail stints
yeah,
match up.
he's in jail. No attacks. He's out of jail. Attacks.
He also had a reason for hating Italians.
Yep.
If he was part of this organization of organized crime against Italians. Yeah, it does. It kind of adds up. And then why not make it a little theatrical? Why not make yourself a little larger than life if this is what you do? You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
You know, I don't know.
So we'll end it there, and we'll end
Good.
it with a quote from Miriam Davis, the author of the book we read and studied for this case. I think the Axeman crimes are probably best understood as a native-born white laborer. Eyewitness accounts confirm this, who had some grudge against Italians who were leaving day labor behind to become small businessmen, possibly out of social envy or anxiety, or he could have been a burglar who was sent to jail by an Italian grocer. That's an interesting theory.
Right.
But we know he was white, and we know he attacked Italian grocers.
Yeah.
So, but I now that I think about it, I like your theory the best, in that it was a fiendish attacker, what we would call a serial killer now,
Right.
who preyed on Italian grocers because they were easy prey. They were in the city because
Right.
they had this small business.
And they're not going to go to
They
the
weren't-
police.
'cause a lot
They're
of
not
the-
going to cooperate.
I mean, a lot of the people working in the sugar plantations and stuff, they were living like on the sugar plantation. They were outskirts of town. They were not easy to get to, easy targets in that
Right.
sense. So the Italians that were in town, they weren't protected very well by the police because they didn't want to be.
Yeah. That's
And,
right.
and they had a kind of an easy access to their home through the business. They could go break into the grocery and then get to the access to their bedroom.
Right.
Yeah, it makes a lot of sense. They were attacked because it
It
was
does.
just an easier target.
And if
not because of racism or anything like that. It was just an easier target.
Yeah, and maybe some racism was involved. Maybe
Perhaps.
maybe that was just a plus. The fact that they didn't go to the police.
Yeah.
You don't ever know.
Yeah, and the fact that it was described as a white man the whole time, that's also a possibility.
And imagine being, I'm using this word very loosely, quote unquote, a native to that area, native white person. But imagine, you're like she said, a blue collar laborer, barely making it, and then you're seeing these Italians come in here, bust their ass, help each other, work together, and then now they're business owners, and now you're out working your ass off to supply their shelves. You're like, well, what the fuck?
So you go and hatch
Like
them,
this-
Michael? You go and hit him with an axe?
Maybe this guy. I'm just saying, it's motivation for the time. It's like, because it feels like a revolution in your area, when really he could have done the same thing.
It's a very violent
If
time
they
in
would just
history,
work
dude.
together.
World War I, the highest body count of any war, was going on during this, and it was just it was the early days of America, are very violent and
But you know what Hispanic
bloody.
families do? Like when they come here, even now,
Yeah.
like they'll come over as as many as they can and work together. And what they do is they make pacts with these other families that are near, or maybe it's like fathers from 5 families. They'll go and they'll all live in like a place together, maybe like rent a small place where they can afford, work their way up. And what they do is every month they all like. This is just how they work it. They can do different amounts or whatever. But let's say you got 10 guys from different families all living in this little place, right? In this little home. And they're all working, they're doing whatever jobs they can do. Once a month they all put into a pot $100. Okay? So that's $1,000. And every week they put in $100. And every week a different person there gets that jackpot.
oh no shit.
And it's just in a rotation. So like the first week, this guy will get the $1,000 and he keeps working, and that's how they make these bigger purchases. Because if you never get a big lump sum, it's hard to get ahead. You know what I'm saying?
Paycheck to paycheck.
Exactly. Your paycheck to paycheck. The system, it's not made to get out of it.
Right.
It's not. Especially not if you don't have a driver's license, you can't prove residency. But this way they can get these big lump sums of money to get their green card or to get
What they need.
Yeah, citizenship or whatever.
Yeah.
And it's pretty cool.
Right.
And that's how they help each other. And I'm thinking that these Italians did a similar type system.
Yeah, I think they had to.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. You
Because,
have
no
no
one else
choice.
was going to help them. So.
Exactly.
All right. Well, that was a fun one.
That was.
Let's do some shout outs, some sponsors. Get out of here.
Let's do it. We got a couple new reviews.
Couple reviews. Let's hear them. The reviews have been rolling in. Thank you guys so much for
Yes, guys,
just
that helps
taking
the
a
show
minute
so
out of your
much.
day. It helps the show a lot. Even if you just click 5 stars, you don't even have to write a review. But if you would like to, that's awesome too. And then we'll give you a shout out. If you do write a review, it leaves your iTunes name, and then we'll give you a shout out for that.
Right. We got a 5-star review from Imer Bell Pilot. Ryan D0331. Thank you. Two Zoos 1. Thanks. And Jaeger 40 ounce. Thanks for the 5-star reviews, guys. We really appreciate that. And to everybody who just went and clicked 5 stars, we really appreciate that. Or 4, whatever, Give us what you think.
Nothing less than 4.
Yeah.
Don't bother.
Don't buy. Just go listen to something else.
You don't like it? Fuck off.
All right, you want to get into our lovely sponsor?
Yeah. Oh my Gaia.
Oh my Gaia.
The
If you
reason
don't
I
know what-
smell fantastic right now.
It's the reason we all smell fantastic around here. And if you
TC
don't know what we're talking
TCP
about,
today. TCP.
Me
True Crime
too,
Pine.
man. Me too. We're finally on it. We're finally on schedule.
Give me some knuckles.
Yep.
Yeah.
So if you don't know what the hell we're talking about Oh My Gaia, which is an innovative all-natural deodorant, fragrance, and beard oil company specializing in paraben and aluminum-free products. Their innovative line of deodorants inhibit the growth of odor-causing bacteria while maintaining effectiveness. At Oh My Gaia, they use only all-natural, paraben, and aluminum-free organic ingredients. And like Lauren mentioned, we have our own scent called True Crime Pine. It's
It's got our
lovely
logo
scent.
on it. That I
does.
really enjoy.
It's got like
It's
our
like a collector's
headshots.
edition.
It's like a seal. She puts like a seal on the side of the jar, so obviously once it's sealed up. And ours has our headshot logo on there, which is pretty cool.
Dope.
But there's tons of other scents. There's vanilla, cherry almond, sandalwood, lavender, lemongrass, Egyptian musk, coconut, dreamsicle, leather, lumberjack, all kinds of stuff. Fireside's a cool one. She just released a new one called Barbershop, which I like a lot.
Oh, I love
How you
that
liking
one.
it? You
I
got
love
that
it.
one too,
Yeah,
right?
It's great.
That's a
It's
really
in the
good one.
rotation. A couple days a week, I smell like barbershop.
That's right. And it's so fresh. And here's the good news for you, because you're a creeper. You can use the code CREEPER for 15% off, CREEPER. And that gets you 15% off at ohmygaia.com. That's OHMYGAIA.com or at shop_ohmygaia on Instagram.
Try it. You will not be disappointed.
You will not, guys. Don't put aluminum in your armpits. If you don't have to, you don't have to.
Don't do it.
Don't do it.
Don't do it. Patreon.com/True
Slash.
Crime Guys.
That's right. The bread and butter. We just released an episode on the Golden State Killer.
Little known case.
Yeah, you may have not heard of it.
GSK, Irons.
GSK, Guskirons is what we like to call it. Guskirons.
Guskerns.
Guskirons.
Oh man, that was
That's
extensive.
a new one.
How long did it take? Two and a half hours?
Almost 3 hours.
Almost 3 hours.
Yeah, almost 3 hours. Yeah, that was a fun one.
We got the Michelle McNamara book.
Yeah,
I'll Be Gone in the Dark. I know everybody loves that book, and
Right.
we did too. And man, we dove into that one.
It was fascinating.
So if you're not a patron, $2 a month get you that and a bunch of other episodes, like 16, 17 episodes,
Yeah.
bonus recordings.
Gacy, Dahmer, Ruby Ridge,
Yeah.
the Crips, Tookie Williams. So much. There's so much stuff on there. It's a lot. We have a lot of fun on Patreon.
Dahmer.
I said Dahmer.
Did you?
Yeah. Bundy.
Eat me.
Anyways, patreon.com/True Crime Guys. You want to help support the show. That's mainly what keeps us on the air.
$5 a month gets you the gold creeper sticker, and then
That's
you're
right.
really in the elite of the society.
What is it? Creep of the crop? Is that what you call it?
Things start happening for you when you got that gold creeper sticker. I've heard people saying, like the creep band sticker, the gold one, like people have said that they've been driving around and the opportunities have come their way. Like they've gotten jobs.
Oh, wow.
It really puts you in the upper echelon.
Yeah, it's like a badge of honor. If they see that
is.
on your resume, just stick it right on the cover letter.
Dude, you don't even have to write anything else in there. Just put your name and then the gold creeper van sticker.
Yeah, right underneath it. Guaranteed.
Hired.
Guaranteed.
On the spot.
No fucking doubt.
Yeah.
All right. Anything else? You got more
Sticker
shouts?
donations. Thank you guys for going to truecrimeguys.com or just going to the description in the episode. There's always been a link. It works right now. We got it all worked out to work.
Absolutely.
If you click that stickers at the bottom of the description of this episode, no matter what app you're using, it should take you to our way to donate for stickers. There's also a picture of the stickers now, all the ones that we have currently.
Awesome.
So you just donate a few bucks and make sure your address is attached. Kate M., you donated $3 on October 2nd, and I haven't been able to send you. I emailed you. I need an address. Okay. So it should be attached when you donate on PayPal, but if it's not, send me an email with your address. But Kate, send me your address so I can get some over to you. I also want to thank Mary R. in Colton, California. I want to thank Riley W. in Ohio.
Nice. Thanks,
I want
Riley.
to thank Audrey in Forest Park, Illinois.
Cool.
Megan in Arkansas, I believe. AK, or is that Alaska? AK is Alaska, right?
Yeah. AR is Arkansas.
And Bree in Iowa, Davenport, Iowa.
Okay. Nice.
Thank you guys for donating for stickers. I will have those out very soon. I'm kind of waiting for a few of them to collect so I can send them all at once. They will be on their way.
I'm starting to think that AL is Alaska. No, that's Alabama, right?
AL's all, yeah.
Oh, damn it.
Oh, Alaska's AK, isn't it?
That's what you said.
Shit, man. I
That's
should
what
know
you
this
said.
as much. Okay.
That's right. That's what you
Yeah,
said,
AK's Alaska, I think.
I'm looking it up.
We're dumb, guys.
We are done.
I don't know why you listen to us.
We're clocked out. Look how long this episode was. I thought
Right.
this was going to be like dude, here we go.
Are you not
Alabama
entertained?
is AL, Alaska's AK, Arizona's AZ, and Arkansas is AR.
So I had it right like the second time.
Yeah.
We
got it
said
right
Arkansas
eventually.
and then I said Alaska.
Yeah, we got it. So if you weren't up to date on your first 4 American states in alphabetical orders, abbreviations, you are now.
Exactly.
All right. Are we done?
We're done, guys. We're back with a free one next week. We're back.
Are we
in
doing
the
a Halloween theme still
swing
again?
of things. I don't know, man. We'll just pick whatever creepy shit we find.
Okay.
I kind of like that, you know? We had good shit. Just so you know, you guys should know this about us. We do not plan things. There's no calendar like this episode's coming up next year in March. We're doing this. No, it's literally we pick a case each week.
Yep.
We study it for a week and then we do it.
Because we want to be freshly interested in it. If you're hitting something for months at a time or you know it's coming, by the time it gets here to record, you're like, you know what I mean? It's like, okay, I'm so done with this.
And we procrastinate.
Yeah, and we procrastinate too. But I like it to be fresh because I get tired of things quickly.
Right.
I get tired of things quickly. I mean, as far as cases.
Yeah.
You know, I'm just like I'm getting tired of this episode, you know?
Me too.
I
All
just
right,
wish
guys.
it was over and just done with.
We're done with you.
Are we done with
Creepers,
it?
We're done with you.
Good. We'll see you next week, peeps.
Keep creeping. Keep creeping.
True crime guys, in the desert we like a mirage. It's okay if you clicked on us cause you thought we was True Crime Garage. Now we ain't mad at you, sit down, let us talk at you. I'm talking to the creeper army, we out here making murder, get murder, get murder. True crime guys, in the desert we like a mirage. It's okay if you clicked on us cause you thought we was True Crime Garage. Now we ain't mad at you, sit down, let us talk at you. I'm talking to the creeper army, we out here making murder charming.